The awakening ceremony began, and someone was having a dialogue on the awakening square about how if a person wants to awaken their profession, they need to touch the stone. A crowd of people waited for their turn. Announcements of professions could be heard. From the third group, Zhang Tengyu became a blacksmith, and from the fifth group, Lao Shezi became a mason. The confident blonde Feng Yun told the man standing next to him to pay attention to the fact that only household professions were awakening. He called everyone a bunch of trash. The man added that even if just one auxiliary profession awakened, it would make things a little more fun. There was a group of people standing around the guys. One of them joined the conversation and said that this whole situation was really boring, because Feng had awakened the main combat profession. He is a warrior with a great sword. And back then, only everyday professions were awakened. The dark-haired guy with a ponytail nudged the blonde guy with his shoulder, and at that moment, everyone was shocked. A guy from the crowd intervened, asking who he was and how he dared to bump into Brother Feng. But the guy continued on his way in silence. Only after taking a couple of steps forward did he turn around, apologize, and add that he was in a hurry. Feng and his subordinates looked at what was happening in shock. The blonde wanted to say something, but the guy interrupted him, saying that the young man looked so arrogant. Was he really from a rich family? Feng's gaze changed. He narrowed his eyes and asked questioningly about the rich family. That guy turned out to be Lin Han. The blonde asked if they remembered the family that was destroyed for some reason several years ago. Feng added that he felt sorry for one of the two geniuses of the first high school, who had wasted himself so uselessly, and yet he still had the nerve to come to the stone to awaken his profession. Lin smiled and thought. The guy realized that Feng was some kind of weakling. All he could do was yelp from the sidelines. But he thought that if he awakened a rare profession, he would become cool. He put his hand to the stone with the thought that now he would show everyone what real talent is. A golden glow began to emanate from the stone, and a golden figure appeared high above it, blinding everyone. Nobody understood what was going on, but everyone asked the blonde. Someone added that it was such a bright light that no one had ever seen anything like it before. Feng realized that this guy was able to cause an anomaly upon waking up, and if he got up, the blonde guy would be a laughingstock. The awakening stone has produced a result. Two girls were discussing what they saw. It turned out to be a hidden class, but it was only a beast tamer. The second girl added that she did not understand what he should be called, a genius or a scum, because he awakened as a beast tamer. Looking at the guy, Feng began to say that if he thinks that he has become a beast tamer, he kept talking about how the guy didn't become anyone important. Feng laughed and said that he should know that if his beast's strength was not enough, then he was just a worthless person. He added that in order to raise strong animals, enormous resources are needed. He asked if the guy had money, after which the blonde spread his legs and said that if he obediently crawled between them, then he would give him money so that he could buy and sign a contract with some mangy dog. Lin quipped that Feng Yun had nothing but his profession, but the guy was thinking that they really considered him weak. The guy started egging the blonde on and saying that he needed money and a dog, since he already had Fen. Yun began to shout angrily that Lin was trash. He started to advance towards him with his fists. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there was a run on heels and the girl pounced on Yun. The self-confident blonde flew to the side. This mysterious girl was Bai Bing. The girl began to protect her student, and drive Wen away with threats that she would skin him. Feng was shocked. He condescendingly said that it was time to leave. The guy turned around and noted that Lin would be spared today, since it was better not to mess with the Bai clan. The teacher asked if the boy had awakened the hidden class, but he only asked her not to laugh at him. The girl's eyes immediately filled with rage. After all, she had said many times to call her sister outside of school. She added that the guy began to consider himself brave, secretly came to the ceremony, and used one of his techniques on Lena. After the guy said that it hurt, the girl let him go. Bai said that taming animals is a bottomless pit. She gave the guy a card with the words that for this money, he should find himself a nice animal. The guy thanked her and said that he would definitely repay her in kind later. The girl got furious again, because she decided that he was showing off. Lin Han's house was visible in the background. The guy walked into the half-empty corridor. He was glad to return home. It was time to shine. He was congratulated on his successful awakening. The divine system of taming beasts was activated. Previously, the boy was the eldest son of the Lin family, one of the best clans. But 3 years ago, the clan was destroyed during the invasion of beasts. The original owner of the body died of grief. At that moment, he passed into this world and received a system that could only be activated after awakening. The guy looked at the system with tears in his eyes, because he had been waiting for it for 3 years, counting the days and nights, and finally activated this thing. The system now includes a profession name, strength and level, dexterity, intelligence, endurance, and equipment. The system announced that the class awakening has been completed and the beast taming system has been activated. The system demanded payment. The guy handed over his card and waited to see what kind of scam would appear there. An incomprehensible mode was activated. Lin didn't understand what was happening at all, but the system congratulated him, because it had successfully completed the side quest. The guy felt a sense of euphoria. The system announced that he had activated cheat mode, unlocked an ultra-rare beast for taming. The system added that his class only had one awakening stage, and he could unlock one beast. Han realized that he had to make the right choice, because one stage allowed him to awaken one beast. He didn't have money for a new beast, and the beast from the system shouldn't be too bad. He decided to take a risk and pointed his finger at one of the animals. Bright red eyes caught his attention, and the boy realized that here it was, his first beast. The system announced that one of the 10 ancient beasts, the heavenly horned ant, had been activated. The guy's emotions changed. Because he invested 100,000 heavenly dragon coins and received only one ant, he wanted to return the money. The ant began to glow, and the system announced that the heavenly horned ant had entered into a contract, and evolution would soon begin. The guy realized that this was a forced deal, because why would he enter into a contract with an ant? The evolution was complete, the beast's combat mode was activated. The guy was very surprised, because he didn't expect to see this. He stopped worrying and realized that everything would be fine with tomorrow's test. The test took place on the Mountain of Shadows. People stood and listened attentively to the leader. The main one was Instructor Cao Chong, and he reported that Teacher Bai was unable to come today. Cao announced that through the portal they would all be transported to areas suitable for each level. He reminded them that they must be careful. Someone called out to Shaolin. The guy was asked if he had found a beast for himself, and if he hadn't found one, they were offered to go together. This guy was Long Tianjiao, Lin Han's best friend. Feng Yun heard all this. He mocked the guy, saying that if help was needed to tame animals, that the guy was a complete non-entity. The blonde started to get angry and asked the guy if he could bark a little like a dog, then he would be ready to sacrifice a tamed animal to him. The guy just calmly turned everything to his side. The blonde tried to translate everything into his own way, but did not understand Lin's words. In an instant, realization came to him. Feng got furious and wanted to attack the guy. He wanted to kill him, but the flying hand was stopped. Lin himself took the stand and asked the blonde man if that was all he could do. Feng was shocked. He didn't understand how a tamer could have more power. He thought Bai gave him some kind of treasure. During the training, the leader called out to the guy and told him to quickly enter the portal. A boy appeared behind the young man. He decided that it was not safe to go there alone. He wanted to go with him. But the boy made it clear that he could handle it himself. The blonde watched the guy leave. He was sure that he would not return alive, because this test was a setup. He had already agreed on everything. The boss himself didn't treat the young man very well, because he didn't understand how some brat could be so close to Bai Bing. After all, he is in love with this teacher, and those who dare to stand in his way. He continued that he would definitely kill them. There was a sign in the background, warning that this was where the storm wolves lived, and it said that entry was strictly prohibited for those living in the first grade. At that moment, the boy realized that the teacher had done this on purpose. He was shocked because he was level 1. A wolf appeared behind the guy. He turned around, and there were already many of them. The guy stroked the ant and said that it was time for him to wake up, because work had already arrived. The ant began to transform and a glow appeared. There was already a girl standing there. Her red eyes and impassive face showed that she was ready for anything. The girl confirmed all this with the words that she was ready, and immediately the entire description appeared. The boy's eyes lit up blue as he called upon the heavenly power to come to his aid. A deft hand hit the wolf. The ant girl went on the attack. After a short period of time, the girl reported that everything was done. There was no fear in her eyes. She was completely confident in herself. The guy said that it was not for nothing that she was one of the 10 ancient beasts. In less than a minute, she destroyed 7 storm wolves. The guy added that in just a few minutes he reached level 6. The guy tried to compare his characteristics with an ant, but the girl was very surprised and called out to him. The guy stopped and realized that he couldn't compare his characteristics with hers, because she was an ancient beast. He stroked her head, and it crossed his mind that it was difficult to imagine her as a beast. Rather, she was just a naive girl. The girl said that she felt calm around her owner, but this only embarrassed him. 2 guys were watching this team. One of them said that Chao assured that the youth would be alone. No one could understand who this girl was, but everyone understood that if she could kill a storm wolf with her bare hands, then this girl was not weak. Looking at her, the guys said that she had a great figure and appearance. The boys agreed that the girl looked better than Teacher Bai, and they were ready to do a lot with her. They came up with a plan to attack from an ambush, the 3 of them. They wanted to catch her off guard and finish off the guy. The boss turned around angrily and asked why the 2 were silent. It turned out that the ant girl was already holding one of them above the ground by the neck. She asked if these guys really wanted to attack her master. The eyes of one of the gang changed. After all, she was able to silently conquer the 2nd and 3rd, He realized that she was at least level 20. One of the boys wanted to run away, but the owner gave the command to capture him. The guy realized that he needed to hurry. The girl swept him off his feet. The owner shouted for her to stop. The girl wanted to cross the zone, but the guy was not sure that the level of this zone was from 11 to 20. In the background was the king of the storm wolves. His level was 22. They stopped for a moment. This wolf captured a fleeing guy, and he only asked for help. The team realized that the Wolf King was a serious level, and that completing this task would earn 200 points. The owner ordered a retreat, but the girl's eyes were burning, and he realized that she would not calm down until she fought. Then he gave the command to fight. He wanted her to kill him. The wolf pounced with its mouth open. The girl jumped on him and grabbed him by the fangs. Her face was very angry. The girl immediately flew up to the moon. After all, she unlocked the lightning movement skill. The girl returned to the wolf and struck. There was an explosion on the ground. The wolf's eyes were blue. The girl was lying on the ground. At that very moment, the king decided to attack her. He jumped and swung his paws. He missed. The owner watched all this, as expected. The difference in levels was too great. These wolves have no honor at all, because one of them brazenly attacked him. 3 people were already heading towards him. He added that they were not ready yet. The owner thanked them, because they came to the slaughter themselves. After all, Lin was thinking about how to deal with the Wolf King. And now it was decided by itself. A hint appeared that he had almost completed the first task, which was to destroy 10 beasts. The guy ran into the animals. He grabbed the wolf by the mouth. The owner abruptly divided it into 2 parts, and at that very moment a hint appeared that the first task had been successfully completed. The guy got 100 points and decided to use a furious blow. The girl was with him. A bright glow appeared around her. The owner spent 100 points to awaken the skill of the furious strike for the horned ant. This strike dealt 100% damage equal to its power, and the cooldown was 5 minutes. The girl in the form of an ant began to rise upward in a spiral. The wolves were at a loss. Immediately a blow came at them with enormous force. It was a horned ant. She flew at great speed. The ant returned to the form of a girl. She flew up and blood splashed around her. A powerful blue shockwave hit the ground. The girl killed the Wolf King, and a hint immediately appeared that the level was completed. The owner looked at her with admiration. He was pleased with the ant's work. There was a strange emotion on the beast's face, and the owner thought that the system had notified her. The girl received a hint that the furious blow was completed. The girl called out to the guy joyfully. She rushed into his arms, saying that she had killed this big dog, and the guy asked her to calm down. The guy had a strange feeling. The girl got upset and said that she was already tired. She felt sleepy. The girl fell asleep right on the ground. The owner stroked her head and thanked her for her efforts. He said that it was time to rest. The ant had energy-saving mode turned on. The girl was recuperating. The guy opened the system and wanted to see what had come up. He was delighted. He was very lucky, because the wolf's fang handle fell out. Lin decided that as soon as he recovered, he would immediately continue hunting. He decided to check his level, but the system issued a reminder that he now needed to continue leveling up. Lin had planned to continue hunting to become stronger and earn money for equipment, but it seems he no longer needs it. Before leaving, Lin decided to talk to the still-living guys to understand who sent them in the first place. The guy's mood improved, because he realized that he wouldn't be bored. A few hours later, the leader gave instructions to the medical team, as the test participants would soon return. He added that everyone should be ready to examine and provide assistance to students. Someone called out to Chao Chun. It was Teacher Bai. Everyone was surprised by her appearance, because she had some other things to do. The man immediately began to justify himself, saying that they were only meeting students returning from the test, and that she shouldn't have practiced like that. Teacher Bai came to inquire about Lin Han's test and demanded an explanation. Chao began to say that he knew that the teacher was close to Lin, but as instructors, they should treat everyone equally. The man wanted to take Bai to a secluded place to tell her something, but she interrupted him. The girl put a knife in front of him and reminded him that she wanted an explanation. The knife was already at Chao's throat. The man was shocked. He didn't understand what she was even talking about. The girl began to press that Lin had just woken up, and he had already been sent to the silver-level training area. The girl added that if he doesn't have a family, why did they decide that they can do whatever they want with him? The man added that he was simply misunderstood and had other reasons. Lin Han awakened as a beast tamer. The man did not send him to his death and that he had arranged for 3 assistants. The teacher threatened that they should pray that the boy would be okay. She said that no matter what wound he received, she would cut off the same part from him. Chao agreed with her and thought that she was just trying to act tough. The man's eyes lit up, because she wouldn't be able to be so bold when she saw Lin Han's corpse. The boy had dirty thoughts towards Teacher Bai. Everyone was told that the test participants had returned. Leng Ling Shui emerged from the 6th group. She received a rare profession. She completed the test first. Feng followed the girl out, saying that, as expected from the best student, she had even outdone him. The guy put his hand on the girl's shoulder and wanted to invite them to get closer, because they were two geniuses of the same generation. But the girl dodged his hand and calmly continued to walk forward. She turned around and added that if it were old Lin Han, she would think about it some more. But as for this guy, he should not think about it and forget about it. Feng was furious. Someone's sharp steps began to approach. At that very moment, a guy came out and started asking about little Lin. Feng quipped and said that he didn't expect to see him here at all, because he was sure that he wouldn't pass the test. But luck smiled on him. The guy said that his friend Lin was less lucky, and he was sure that he died. Lin's friend asked him to repeat it again, and Feng said that Lin Han died there, that he was just a trash beast tamer. The guy told him to shut up. He was advised to stop worrying about others and improve his own strength. Tian ordered the boy to step aside and not interfere with the others leaving. The friend was confident that Lin would return. An hour later, everyone was thanking Feng for his work and asking how he was feeling. The friend didn't understand why Lin hadn't come out yet, since everyone had already returned. The guys said that there was nothing to take from him, and he died in a pack of animals, an honorable death. A stone suddenly flew in someone's direction. This stone hit Feng straight on the head. The friend's face changed. Joy was visible on his face. It was Lin. He said he lost track of time while playing. He was laughing. He was wondering where so many noisy dogs came from at school. A friend ran up to the guy. He was glad to see him. Teacher Bai breathed a sigh of relief. The second mentor was dissatisfied, because he sent 3 people to deal with him. So how come this useless guy is still safe and sound? The man realized that the guy was just lucky, so he shouldn't think that they would let him go so easily. Everyone didn't understand what a beast tamer could do without pets. The blonde added that he had really been hiding in the corner all this time. The guy's friend stood up for him and said that he really thought everyone was such a coward. The blonde was called a coward, but he only replied that everything would soon be revealed. The blonde added that the guy was a useless beast tamer. He had been hiding and trembling in the dark mountains for so long to come out only now. The boy's friend started to show up, but Lin stopped him. The guy started saying that with such a skill, he wasn't even worthy of cleaning his animal's shoes. The blonde man proposed a bet to find out whose level was higher, and he also added that if he won, he would receive coins. But if he lost, he would kneel and bow. The guy agreed to the bet, but his friend tried to stop him because the instructor was there. The guy turned to the instructor and asked him not to interfere. The man agreed, but added that since they had made a bet, everyone should keep their word. His eyes lit up as he realized that this was a great opportunity to destroy the guy. The teacher looked at the young man. She liked his look. The instructor exclaimed that it was time to begin. A friend wanted to intervene on Lin's behalf. The blonde had level 3, but it began to appear that the guy only had level 2. Everyone started supporting Feng, because the 3rd level is considered rare for a reason. The boy realized that Feng Yun had actually reached the 3rd level. The blonde said that now it was time to talk about Lina. He was already waiting for a bow. The fat man was furious, but he was stopped. He was worried about the guy, but he explained that he didn't take his strength seriously. The guy started saying that even if he lost a level and had to start from scratch, he would still be miles ahead, since he was already level 10. Everyone in the area was in shock. Lin stood proudly. Feng was furious. He didn't understand how the guy could become so strong in such a short time. Even the best student in the entire school couldn't achieve this. The blonde was sure that the guy was cheating. Lin replied that the blonde thought so simply because he couldn't do something. The guy took a step forward. He told Cao to make sure the blonde didn't try to get out of it. The guy added that several assistants helped him reach level 10. The instructor was shocked because the guy found out that people had been sent after him. The man was angry because he had worked hard to get into this position. Everyone looked at the guy and thought that he had really reached this level. Storm added that sooner or later she would still catch up with him. The guy approached Sister Bin and asked what she was doing there. The girl replied that she had taken care of all her business. That was why she had come, after all. It was all her job. And she couldn't just turn a blind eye to all of this. The fat man asked to give the guy a little more time, because he would definitely soon become invincible. The girl's face changed. The instructor attacked the guy from behind. Lin's face did not change. Bai jumped forward, shouting for caution. 2 blows came together in one. The instructor told the girl not to try to use the academy rules against him. He added that he had to finish off the guy today. The girl fell to the floor, but in an instant she rose sharply. She shouted that as long as she was here, he wouldn't be able to do it. The guys looked at all this in shock. The instructor began to speak to her disrespectfully, and at one point confessed his feelings, which went to waste. The girl jumped on him in rage. He lifted her by her legs and said that he would take a percentage for himself first. A foot hit the instructor on the head. It was Lin. He stood up for Bai. The guy caught the girl. He asked if everything was okay with her, and the girl replied that everything was fine. The instructor lay on the ground, and the guy added that he had attacked stealthily, and if he didn't give a clear explanation, he might show his 10th level strength again. The instructor jumped up and said that he knew how he had reached this level, because he had sent 3 15th level assistants after him, and not one had returned. He said the guy went crazy and killed them all to get experience from them. He added that he was so cruel and ruthless, that he was unworthy of being a student at the academy. A thoughtful expression appeared on the instructor's face. It turned out that they carried out his assistant. The instructor approached him and could not believe that he was really dead. The instructor liked this, because the dead cannot testify. The instructor started shouting that the guy even brought a corpse. He asked to hear an excuse. Lin said he simply saw someone die in the Shadow Mountains, and out of the kindness of his heart he carried him out. He turned around and said that he was different from some who send their juniors to their deaths and then pretend that they had nothing to do with it. He sat down in front of the guy and said that he was really pathetic. Even after death he was used as meat. Chow was angry because the guy said that if he didn't like it, then he should remember that at night he needed to find the guy, and not Lin. The instructor tried to attack the leader again, but the teacher and his friend began to shout loudly. The guy egged Chow on, saying that she could spill his dirty tricks. The man missed and told him to shut up, justifying everything by saying that he did it to avenge A Hao. Lin said that men don't understand what he's doing. The blonde's team was on the instructor's side. Everyone supported him. The man's fist moved towards the young man again, but the guy came back again, and this only irritated the instructor. The guy understood that Cao was much stronger, and that he was no match for him in any fight. However, he did not intend to fight with just his fists. The boy took his ice staff. The man's leg immediately flew up and the guy kicked it. The man flew into the wall at great speed. Lin caught himself thinking that after pumping up his strength had noticeably increased. The guy realized that he just needed to move away. In the end, his characteristics may be slightly inferior to the instructor. But what if he enters the battle? Suddenly the ant woke up. The celestial horned ant transformed into a girl. She always appeared when someone harmed the owner. The instructor's eyes lit up red. The ant exclaimed that the instructor must die. A huge blue explosion appeared. The girl struck. The guy's friend was very pleased. The teacher didn't understand who this girl was. The blonde's team didn't understand what had happened or why the instructor had flown away. The ant girl screamed in anger. The owner brought the girl back, and she stopped abruptly and her eyes changed. Her true nature is that of an ancient beast, and this is too dangerous information. If it is revealed too soon, it will be bad for all of them. The girl laid her head on the guy's shoulder and said that she listened to him and stopped. The guy praised her, but still first turned her back into an ant. She agreed. In an instant, the girl became a small horned ant. The girl jumped onto the guy's shoulder in the blue light. The instructor said that the guy not only killed the assistant, but also attacked the instructor along with a stranger. The instructor was furious and said that there were such spoiled students. We must punish properly. Someone's silhouette appeared. Chow was reminded that what he had done had not yet been investigated, and he was told not to rush to pin everything on the student. The instructor lay on the ground and did not understand how this man ended up there. He was the dean of the first high school. He had a level 56. The instructor started shouting that the guy had killed the teacher's assistant in order to level up, and that he just wanted to grab him and bring him to justice, and the guy suddenly tried to kill him. He shouted that the witnesses and evidence were clear, and asked the dean to make a decision and kill the guy. Lin was completely calm, because it was true that he would kill himself and refute the rumors. The dean noticed the boy and realized that he seemed to have something to say, and the boy only agreed, and asked to first check the cause of death and the assistant. The dean decided that they would check this right now. He saw that the entire chest was crushed. Most of the internal organs were torn, and such fatal wounds must have been the work of a large animal. The instructor shouted that even if the guy was finished off by his beast, then Han was definitely involved. Otherwise, how could the guy have brought the body? He laughed and said that Chow was skillfully pulling the wool over people's eyes, that he had merely brought the body of his assistant. Chow was shocked, because laziness said that it was he who sent him to kill the guy. But he turned out to be too useless, and was killed by a ferocious beast, and the instructor tried to refute all this. Teacher Bai came up and said that earlier the instructor had sent the boy to an area that was not his level. Chow considered all this unfair. He insisted that he could not harm the student. He shouted that these were just empty words and there was no evidence. The dean asked the young man if he had any evidence. The instructor's eyes lit up, because the people he sent were all dead, and there was no evidence. Lin Han waved his hand, forming a magic ball as he looked at his opponents. The men rolled to the ground, their faces twisted in horror at Lin's magical power. The girl watched the situation unfolding before her eyes questioningly. The fat man also directed his stunned gaze towards Lin and his assistants. Han said that one assistant died on the spot only when he went out and killed the Stormwolf King. His face reflected an unkind thoughtfulness and cunning, thereby igniting interest even more. Lin swung his leg, landing a painful blow on the man's tailbone. The men, wincing in pain, shouted their explanations at the same time. Ants ran across the young man's legs, causing them unpleasant pain. The guy grinned evilly, rejoicing at his successful torture. He turned to Instructor Chow, clearly expecting some kind of explanation. Chow became furious, waving his hands in frustration. His gaze was directed towards a certain mark, enveloping in magic. She pressed tightly against his chest, causing the man to throw his head back from a certain current. The dean reminded Chow that intending to harm a student was a violation of the academy. A blue glow emanated from his finger, and the threat only added to the seriousness. The girl grabbed Lin's hand, expressing her concerns and suggesting that he take a rest. Holding hands, they fixed their gaze on someone's figure in front of them. The girl folded her arms across her chest, clearly addressing Lin with displeasure. She leaned towards them, wondering how he killed the storm wolves. After expressing her doubts, she offered to hold Lin's palm. She challenged him, wanting to fight and evaluate the young man's capabilities. He replied, both dissatisfied and doubtful, that now was not the time. Suddenly their hands were roughly separated with just one wave of the hand. Bai said that now they should sum up the results of the test and not measure their strength. An angry atmosphere hung in the air as the girls stood opposite each other, responding to each other with some aggression. Lin awkwardly raised his hand, asking if everyone would be allowed to go home to rest already. Now the girls turned their angry gaze towards the young man, while he tried to change the subject. Teacher Bai was lost in her thoughts, immersed in unconscious jealousy at the presence of competitors in her circle. Frowning, the girl turned around, warning the boys of her departure. Len began to put pressure on Lin, making him feel awkward about refusing. She agreed with him, but reminded him of the promise. The young man sighed wearily, thinking about the teacher's reaction. Golden doors framed by an arch allowed entry into the trading area of the Shadow Mountains. Lian was considering a plan to sell things to pay off debts and cover expenses. A man named Tian, who was the manager of the trading floor, entered the room. The young man presented the items for sale with some pride, waiting for the manager's reaction. The man's reaction was somewhat ambiguous. The expected delight or joy was replaced by concern. The manager had a question, and he politely asked if he could ask it. Suddenly he laughed, confirming that he was an old friend of Lin's father. Patting Han on the shoulder, the man expressed his pride at his achievements at such a young age. A cunning plan crept into the young man's head to increase the selling price, using his father's friendly connections. While the father's friend, hoping for the stupidity of youth, wanted to negotiate a lower price. Lin grinned and spread his arms, presenting his wares once again. Smiling slyly, Tan offered to give 5 million dragon coins in exchange for the items. Lin quipped that despite his friendly ties with his father, the deal had to be done according to the rules. They began to bargain, each offering a price that would benefit him. Finally reaching an agreement among themselves, they settled on 6 million. By shaking hands, they supposedly strengthened their sales agreement. The waitress brought the payment cards that Uncle Tanya started talking about. Taking both cards, the boy thanked the manager with an approving smile on his face. While thinking, Lin also wanted to look at a couple of magic scrolls. Watching Hanyu go, Tan thought that great achievements awaited this young man. He chuckled, excited about the potential benefits he might gain from Lin in the future. There was a black car parked in front of the young man's house, and a man in a suit was sitting next to it. The young man did not expect to see him near his house and asked about the reason. It was the manager of the Bai family, who immediately greeted Lin with a bow. The young man noted that they had not seen each other since the Lin family had fallen into decline. Miss Bai went to the Diamond Dungeon and captured the Void Beast there, after which she was placed under house arrest, instructing the manager to hand over the beast. Lin was flattered by Bai's sacrifice, as the Diamond Dungeon did not inspire a sense of security. He reached for the door, wanting to see the beast. The Duke abruptly slammed the door with his palm, saying something about a certain message from the gentleman. He made a distinction that if Lin took the Void Beast, there would be no obligations left to them. His face suddenly distorted, expressing a frightening gloom. The young man was stunned by such a sudden change, his eyes widening in surprise and his palm lowered. He thanked the butler for his help, but emphasized that he had never asked for it. Moving from the spot, Lin refused to accept the beast. Han firmly decided that he would no longer accept either help or beast from these people. The butler, with a sly grimace, insisted that Lin take the gift. His body was covered with a magical shell, orange in color. From the unexpected attack, Han's eyes suddenly turned red. He looked confident, even though he didn't yet understand what was happening. The butler rose into the air, a fiery aura wafting around him. However, fear gripped him, and he began to doubt his own strength. Enraged, he was sure that he would not let himself be defeated. Throwing the cards towards the butler, Lin offered to take them. The man caught the card with 2 fingers, not understanding what was happening. He decided to end his debts by giving Bai his debt along with interest. Lin warned that next time attacks against him there would be consequences. The manager was stunned by his behavior. The young man had never shown such responsibility and self-confidence before. Suddenly a red building with barred windows appeared. creating a gloomy appearance. The guy plopped down tiredly on the bed, succumbing to his thoughts. He closed his eyes, deciding to get some sleep before tomorrow's business. The magical ant on his shoulder glowed blue. He pressed his face against the boy's cheek while he slept. Suddenly, the room was illuminated by a bright color, rays of light peeking out from the windows. Hanging on the guy's chest, the blonde addressed him as if he were her master. Putting her arm around his shoulders, the ant girl praised him for his efforts. The next day was spent in the temple changing classes. Lin walked through the crowd, which was excitedly discussing his achievements. It made him feel awkward, and Han wanted to avoid something like this in the future. His foot stepped onto the brown floor with beige accents. Entering the room, a huge magic crystal stood in front of Lin. The receptionist said that you just need to place your hand on the crystal to display the task to change class. The crystal lit up, revealing task number 10. Lin peered at the task, assessing its difficulty. The level of the task was displayed on the big screen, which attracted people's attention. Everyone was saying that this hellish level was impossible to pass. Lin covered his face with his hand, mentally cursing his luck. A loud announcement about a 5-star mission was made. People were wondering who this loser was who pulled off such a task. Lin stretched his hands upwards, reassured by the fact that the system did not announce the participant of the task. He accepted the assignment and decided to take action. The destroyed ruins stood one after another. Men in uniform walked around the tents and cars. This is the gathering place of the mercenaries. The muscular man announced that they had not had a single person come for the task. Suddenly some sound caught his attention and his eyebrows frowned. Lin walked past them, kicking at the sand. The workers stared at his back, exchanging thoughts about the young man's wealth. They called out to him and asked if he had come for a mission. The squad boss made an offer to help Lin for a certain fee. He didn't even look in his direction, quickly voicing his refusal. The jock continued to follow him, trying to bargain. Han grabbed his wrist sharply, firmly confirming his refusal once again. He threatened that if the leader of the squad continued to pester him, he would lose his arm. Then he suddenly pushed him away from you, causing the jock to lose his balance. Lin looked at them sullenly, considering the mercenaries to be thieves and murderers. The leader became angry, baring his teeth and throwing glances at Lin with the desire to finish him off. Suddenly someone called out to him, trying to calm him down. The red-haired girl stabbed the knife into the hard surface, wanting to stop thinking about fighting. She announced that a little later their squad would deal with Lin. Lin looked at the scenery in front of him, noting that it did not match his expectations. The ant girl began to transform, glowing with magical light. He praised her by poking her on the nose. A system task appeared before the guy's eyes, something he didn't expect to see. After reading the information, Lin was pleased with the points he received. He didn't know where the place he needed was, and decided to talk to Uncle Tien first. The young man voiced the tasks for Aya, introducing her to their plans. A flock of thunder beasts rushed past, with a terrible grin and an angry look. Ai slammed her hand against the rocks, sending a huge beam of magic upward. The beasts moved towards Lin, wanting to attack. He mockingly noted that due to the impossibility of defeating Ai, the beast decided to choose him. Throwing a huge ball of fire upward, he caustically announced that he was ready for battle. Grilled thunder beast meat should be delicious, Lin said. The animals watched the flames with fear, their eyes wide with anticipation. The flames moved towards them, surrounding them in a massive fireball. The animals started running away, afraid for their lives. Lin looked in their direction, leaving mocking comments. He urged Ai to run after the animals and finish them off. In such a short time, they collected all the energy stones. Han was glad that Ai had risen in levels. He put his hand in his pocket, clutching the gadget. Uncle found out the location of the Apostle of Thunder and is ready to send it to him. But it's dangerous to go into this place until you reach second class. He suggested that Ai go earn points, to which she happily agreed. The red-haired girl watched them, her back pressed against the ruins. Baldy was about to take action, but his boss stopped him. Ai clung to her master, and they continued on their way. On their way, they finally met the Apostle of Thunder, his level lit up from above. And compared to the Stormwolf King, he was nothing. Lin ordered Ai to move forward so that they could kill him quickly and go home. The Apostle bared his teeth, casting a glance in the direction of those who had disturbed him. Ai launched punches towards him, blood splashing everywhere. Suddenly, she abruptly transformed into an ant, landing on the sand. She released some kind of liquid, trying to bury herself in it. The Apostle shook his head from side to side, bending over her. Suddenly, Ai jumped out of the sand, swinging towards the beast. She released the magic scroll from her hands, releasing energy. The beast flew upward, spitting blood from its mouth again. Lin grinned and wished him death, and he released the scroll. The Thunder Apostle was crushed by an ice spear, but no points were added. They were exhausted and sank to the ground from fatigue. Lin looked at the points he had earned and was happy for himself. Aya's defense also increased, which was good news. She suddenly began to hug her owner, thereby showing her emotions. Suddenly he was called out to, and someone's boot stepped onto the sand. A squad led by a red-haired girl rose before their eyes. Lin responded with barbs, but there was not a drop of fear in his eyes. The bald mercenary went berserk, threatening to kill Han if he did not hand over the treasure. The young man continued to make sarcastic remarks. It seemed the gang's threats did not frighten him at all. The girl put a stop to his insolence, saying that they were in an area where the patrol did not do its job. She continued to hurl threats at Han as the entire gang turned their gaze in their direction. A blush rose to her cheeks, but she looked confident. Suddenly, the mercenary noticed that the place where the young man's partner had stood was now empty. At this time, I froze in mid-jump behind the woman, intending to attack. She grabbed the hands of the mercenaries and the woman, squeezing them tightly with her fingers. Spinning them in a circle, she scattered the mercenaries to the sides. The girl flew towards the sandy ruins while I looked in her direction. The mercenaries took out their weapons, firing fire bullets towards Aya. At this time, she activated the Iron Bone skill, increasing her defense by 20%. The woman, realizing her defeat, gave the order to the mercenaries to retreat immediately. Suddenly she raised her head in horror and widened her eyes. Lin held a bundle in his hand, towering over her. The magical power launched a lightning strike towards the opponents, illuminating everything with light. The bald man was frightened, not understanding where his opponents got so much strength from. Suddenly the woman hatched a plan to grab Lin and have sex with the girl. The bald man enthusiastically supported her proposal, clenching his fist tightly. Han commented sarcastically on his actions and desired to continue the fight. Lin had a bunch of scrolls swirling around him, and he was mockingly quoting his opponent's attacks against him. The boss and her partner froze in fear again. They clearly didn't expect the young man to have so many scrolls. Lin bared his teeth in a grin that looked quite creepy. The class change temple, where assignments were usually given, appeared again. The black-haired girl led a dialogue about the 5-star task, emphasizing the difficulty of its completion. She jerked in surprise and her eyes widened. Lin entered the room and announced the completion of his assignment. She couldn't believe what was said, because it seemed impossible to complete this task so quickly. Not believing the young man, she asked him what he wanted to know about his mission. He reiterated that he had indeed completed the task and would like to change classes. She screamed loudly. Her mind couldn't comprehend that this was actually possible. The girl told him about a free room and received gratitude from the young man in response. Thinking again, she tried to comprehend the truth of his words. Hearing the notification that the task had been completed, she moved away from the table, her eyes widening in shock. Everyone in the area who heard this announcement could not understand who was being talked about, who was capable of carrying out tasks of such complexity. The young man touched the crystal, which congratulated him on his victory. Hearing his new profession, Lin clenched his fists with enthusiasm. He stared at the screen, which listed his achievements. Lin noticed the emergence of new skills, which could not but please him. He decided to try them out right away, his face showing interest. Suddenly, golden wings framed by magic appeared on him, and he flew upward. He emphasized the power of his acquired skills, which are not usually acquired that easily. He also learned that he could now copy and use other people's skills, but these are not all the rewards he will receive in return for his feat. He was given the option to choose the Wave of Anger skill. He reached his finger towards the yes answer, confidently pressing the button. Raising his hands victoriously, he rejoiced at his acquisitions. Suddenly a new task appeared. Although not much time had passed since the last one, he thought about his capabilities and what kind of animal would suit him with his new skills. It looks like it's time for the young man to visit Uncle Tien. He wanted to sell the loot and buy some information at the same time. Uncle was in the VIP room of the trading platform, frozen in shock. Behind the young man were gold bars, piled on top of each other and reflecting the bright light. The man called his assistants to check the loot and put a price tag on it. Taking a look at the girls and his catch, the young man wondered how he had obtained it. Uncle announced the price and said that he would immediately order the money to be transferred to Lin's card. Lin handed over the card and said that he also needed a trained beast with lightning skills. Clutching the map, the uncle repeated what the young man had said, thinking. Suddenly he was struck by a realization, as if he had remembered something. He said that a few days ago a thunderbird appeared in the Thunder Forest. Many tried to catch her, but failed every time. Lin shook his uncle enthusiastically, saying that it would suit him. The uncle said that there was no more information, but they acquired one feather of this bird, and it starts to glow if you get close to the thunderbird. Lin said it was a good thing and he would take it. The uncle slammed the box shut and announced payment. He set a price tag of 1 million for payment, and only after that would the pen be in the hands of the young man. Lin was clearly not happy with the price tag, but the feather was also important to him. He still agreed to the deal and the given price tag. Han squeezed the box in his hand and decided that the bird was worth it. The Thunder Forest was the habitat of the thunder leopards and a leveling area. Lin recalled his uncle's words about the glow of the feather and the bird as he stood at the entrance to the forest. He thought it was all a deception, throwing back the feather, because he could see the bird with his own eyes. Han decided that with his assistant, they would quickly deal with the forest. He talked about Aya's power, about himself and the future beast. Ai, in the form of an ant, ran along Lin's shoulder, clearly dissatisfied. Having transformed, she froze with a displeased expression. She began to kick him, expressing jealousy and competition from the owner's desire to find more animals. Suddenly, someone called out for help. Lin and Ai turned towards the call. The pink-haired girl ran from the thunder leopard. He was quite strong, as his level was 19. While the girl's level was at 10th, her foot got under a branch, which was clearly not very lucky. In an instant, she stumbled and fell face down on the ground. At that moment, the leopard showed his teeth in readiness to attack. He positioned himself behind her as she lay on the grass. She cringed and mentally said goodbye to life. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and did not understand why nothing had happened. Lin put his new skills to use, distracting the leopard. The girl froze in shock, not understanding what was happening. Lin asked if she was okay as his figure towered over her. She said in a frightened voice that the thunder leopard was not so easy to deal with, and that they needed to run away quickly. Han mockingly called the leopard a cat, showing no fear. He advised her not to worry, because he had someone to deal with the enemy. The ant grew in size, preparing for the fight. He bit sharply into the leopard's flesh, causing blood to flow. Gnawing through the neck, he fell on top. Lin watched them from afar, slightly surprised by Ai's changes. The girl sat on the grass, considering Ai to be a ferocious beast. Suddenly, a hand reached out to her, with interest in her well-being. It was Lin who wanted to help her up. She grabbed his hand tightly, seeing the danger in the ant. She started running, taking Hanya with her. The leopard fell into their path, clearly startled by Ai. Ai stood in their way, believing that her master was being kidnapped. He praised her as he headed towards his little animal. Stroking her on the top of her head, he told her that a reward awaited her. The girl froze in shock and opened her mouth, not understanding what was happening. Ai stood opposite as Lin introduced her and himself. He said that Ai is his pet, and there is no reason to be afraid of her. The girl smiled, recognizing in him the reason for discussions lately. She poked Ai in the top of her head, which clearly irritated Lin's pet. Ai looked at her with irritation and responded to her statements at the same second. A headbutt technique followed towards the girl. She was jealous of her owner and did not want anyone to approach him. He asked why the girl came to this place. She introduced herself and told about her mission in this place. Han also spoke about his reason for being in this place. She offered her help in return for the rescue. He was inspired, even though her level was weak for him. They shook hands, sealing the deal. However, her powers were limited, and the Thunderbird item was required. Lin showed her the feather he had recently bought. She stressed that this is an ideal opportunity to determine where the bird is. He assured her that she could do whatever she wanted with the feather. Wei began to use her skills while closing her eyes. It dawned on her that she had apparently found something. She confirmed the find and told us to follow the light. Lin thought about it with inspiration, tucking his chin with his finger. They walked through the forest, following the directions of the light. Lin stopped Wei abruptly, warning him about the beasts. Frightened, she asked what they should do. The girl pressed her chest against the young man's shoulder. This action did not please Ai. She watched Wei angrily. Lin pointed his finger and urged his pet to action. The system notifications pleased Lin with the number of points. He thought about Aya's strength and what she was capable of. Raising her hand triumphantly, she indicated that the job was done. Wei was amazed at the strength of some ant, not believing her eyes. Lin finally reached level 11, which made him noticeably happy. The girl pushed Wei away from the young man with one wave of her hand. He laughed, but told her to go back to her old self. Wei got down on all fours, not understanding what had happened. But in the area I saw only Lin and an ant. She quickly realized that this was just Han's pet attacking again. They exchanged glances, but Ai clearly showed displeasure. Ai didn't like that someone was taking away her master's attention. However, Wei was only touched by her and did not believe that anything was making her pet angry. She wanted to pet her and pulled her finger. Ai just stretched her paws, trying to fence herself off. Lin laughed and warned that his pet would soon get angry. He asked Ai to clear the way for them and sent her ahead. The young man was glad that in such a short time, he was able to rise to level 15. Ai fell asleep on his shoulder, clearly tired. They exchanged glances with Wei as they walked along the forest. The entire Thunder Forest was protected by Lin and Ai. But now they had to find the bird, not deal with the animals. Suddenly Ai started making sounds which alarmed Lin. There was something ahead that even she feared. On a branch, in the night, sat the Thunderbird they were looking for. She was on the 13th level, which gave her a chance to reach an agreement. But the bird suddenly took off, frightened by the presence of strangers. Wei said that their classes did not allow flying, which meant she was missed. Lin chuckled, remembering his new skill. He activated a new skill that helped him fly. Taking off, he chased the Thunderbird. She was hovering in the air, not far from Lin. Everyone turned their gaze towards her, at a short distance. He put forward his proposal to her to become his pet, to which the bird discontentedly flew away to the side further than Lin. He was upset by such a violent reaction and became dejected, but still, it interested him, and he flew towards her. Wei glanced gloomily in their direction and decided to stay put. He reached out his hands to the bird, again bombarding it with offers. Almost touching her tail, he clenched his fist. Angered, Lin noticed that she had run away again. The bird was reflected in a magical light, with reflections of purple rays. Lin clenched his fist enthusiastically, ready to fight. He wanted to subjugate her at least through battle. Han used his furious strike skill. He grabbed her by the neck, finally sealing the contract. The system displayed a notification about the contract being concluded, also showing the pet's skills. Lin thought that the thunderstorm skill was a real weapon of mass destruction. The girl, slightly embarrassed, raised her head and greeted her master with a slight smile on her face. Lin couldn't help but notice the girl's figure, and was quite surprised that it was a truly ferocious beast, noting that it was even more ferocious than I. I was sitting on his shoulder, still in her ant form, but already quite angry. In an instant she transformed and frowned, looking intently at the new girl. A sternly told her not to dare take her owner away from her, to which the girl replied that she would swallow her with one beak and not notice. Lin tried to calm them down, saying that they were now one family, and asked I to give in a little, as the older sister who was the first to take human form. The bird asked its owner to give it a name as soon as possible. Lin thought for a moment and said that he had once heard in a poem that when yin and yang mixed, lightning was born and was called the drum of heaven and earth. He thought for a moment and said that her name would now be Tianhu, to which the girl said that she really liked that name. The guy thought that she was very sweet and gentle, and that she possessed such a wild technique as a thunderstorm. He was quite interested in trying out her skills in action. And then Lin remembered that this was just the opportunity to show what she was capable of. He looked towards the mysterious girl he had saved. After some time, they all went together to the barbarian camp. Wei approached the guy and asked if he really wanted to help her complete a 4-star quest, adding that her goal was to hunt the camp leader. Lin said that she helped him find the Thunderbird, and he would help her with the task, and that it was fair. The guy followed Tianhu with his finger as she flew away, telling her to show what she was capable of. Tianhu flew slowly, lightning flashing around her wings, which looked very mesmerizing. In an instant, she turned into a human and continued to float in the air, only now lightning was around her hands. She looked quite menacing. Fixing her gaze, she screamed, "Thunderstorm hail." A tornado appeared in the sky, from which lightning shot out in different directions and very frequently. The barbarians in the camp looked at the sky in bewilderment, not understanding what was happening. Lin thought at that moment that she would show herself, and very well. But he immediately realized that the level of the monsters here was too low. One blow from Tianhu, and all he would have to do would be to kneel and beg them not to die. Lin shouted for Tianhu to do as she wanted. She just didn't need to kill the barbarian leader. Tianhu, hearing her master's request, cried out with a smile that she was ready and quickly flew towards the ground. Her speed was too great, and after she landed on the ground, the shockwaves scattered the barbarians in different directions. Many were already lying on the ground, paralyzed by lightning. But one of the barbarians was standing on his feet and aiming his bow at her. Tianhu was at his side in an instant and grabbed him by the neck. As soon as the girl squeezed her hand tighter, lightning struck straight at him. Wei watched everything that was happening with fear and suggested that Lin go and help the Thunderbird, because there were a lot of enemies and it was unknown how long it would take. Suddenly the girl screamed very loudly. She saw that the bird had already managed to grab the barbarian leader, and Lin immediately told Tianhu that this was a very good job. Lin handed the knife to Wei and told her to kill him, and then her task would be completed. Wei, without thinking for long, took the knife with both hands and killed the barbarian leader. The girl became embarrassed and, without looking at the guy, thanked him, adding that she definitely wouldn't have managed without him. Wei said that she lived very close by and besides, everything was already done. She offered to show him the city of Yuzhou. Lin said that it was not worth doing this, because she also helped him with the Thunderbird. And as he left, he added that he hoped that fate would bring them together again. Wei looked at him with a smile and told herself that she also really hoped that they would meet again. Lin walked along, thinking that he had experienced incredible luck, having tamed a second ferocious beast in half a day. He understood that now he needed to properly plan his further pumping. But his thoughts were interrupted. His phone rang and he looked at the screen, puzzled as to why Fatty Lun was calling him at such a time. He picked up the bell with a smile and said that if he was inviting him to dinner, he would be happy to go out. Lun laughed and said that he had a completely different but very important matter for him. Fatty Long asked Lin if he had heard of illusory reality. Lun began to explain what it was and how it happened. He said that the illusory reality is a virtual space created by the Imperial Army. It can not only simulate different battle scenes, but also generate different ferocious beasts to fight against the awakened. Lun added that although you won't gain experience there, it's ideal for practicing techniques and skills. He said that a lot of people almost broke each other's heads over a slot in this simulator, and he, through his dad, had already gotten a pass for Lin. Lin thought that Tianhu and I had excellent individual abilities, but their teamwork was difficult. He was already imagining in his head that the illusion had actually helped them, and they were able to get along with each other. Lun said that he sent the address to his phone, adding that he should definitely go there when he had time. Lin hesitated a little, because Fatty Long had already done so much for him. After all this, Lin went to his room and went to bed. In the morning, he was awakened by the loud sound of the alarm clock at 8 in the morning. Opening his eyes, he saw I in front of him, which surprised him, that there had been such provocation since early morning. Tianhu hugged him and held him close, telling him that it was still early and he could sleep a little longer. A tried to push the girl away from the owner, to which Tianhu said with a sly smile that in that case the owner would be better off hugging her because she was small. They started pushing each other, grabbing hands and shouting various offensive things, while Lin watched all this silently. He was already a little tired of this, because both of them, on the outside, were grown-up beauties, but inside, they were like children. The center's assistant kindly informed him that Mr. Lin's identity had been successfully confirmed and he could enter the capsule to enter the illusory reality. The guy thought seriously when he heard that he would be able to choose a dungeon of the appropriate level if he could break the record and get a reward for it. The young man climbed into the capsule with his companions and began to wait for the full immersion. A large table appeared in front of his face, confirming his choice of difficulty level, which he confirmed without hesitation. Gradually, reality began to distort and transform, but for a full download it was necessary to wait until 100%. In front of them they saw an illusory battle arena, in which they would have to fight their next opponents. Enraged wolves were waiting for them right at the entrance to the arena. Looking at the flock of evil predators with their legs burning with blue flames, Lin Han called them his old friends. Suddenly, I jumped out from behind his shoulder and shouted that she was more suitable to be next to her master. Gathering all her strength and confidence into a fist, she rushed straight towards the wolf's mouth. With one powerful blow, she managed to throw all her opponents a couple of meters away from her. Feeling all her confidence, I turned towards her partner and proudly showed her the middle finger. Tianhu looked at the girl calmly and couldn't understand why she, like a naive child, considered this trifle a reason to boast. Having decided that it was time to show which of them was truly stronger, the girl began to gather all her magic around herself. A second later, a huge purple-pink cloud of magic gathered behind Tianhu. Realizing that another conflict was about to occur, Lin hastened to calm them down and said that they should all love each other as one big family. He understood that both girls had strong characters and it would be difficult to deal with them. While Lin was pondering his difficulties, a wolf tried to pounce on him from behind. But thanks to his quick reaction, the guy immediately eliminated another problem. The girls stopped their argument for a moment and ran to their master to make sure he was okay. Their main mistake was that in all the squabbling they forgot even about the owner's safety. Before the next wave of beasts, a warning appeared that the enemies were now closer to level 20, and that they needed to be more careful. Even some rare combat professions couldn't handle this difficulty, but Lin thought it was just right for him. The beast tamer's biggest weakness is its lack of combat power. Gathering his strength, Lin thought about the reason why he came to the illusory reality. Having hit the wolf right in the jaw, he came to the conclusion that the main reason was to make up for the lack of strength. Flying far up, the wolf could only make an unintelligible howl, to which the boy did not react in any way. Tianhu and I watched their master's actions with admiration in their eyes, and said that he was amazing. Lin himself noticed his increased strength, and noted that it was not in vain that he invested all his stat points into strength. Suddenly the wolves howled, which meant that the real battle was about to begin. The guy was ready for anything, and calmly began giving orders to his assistants. I said that although she didn't want to fight alongside Tianhu, Master's order would be carried out. At that moment, the only thing the guy was interested in was whether the wolves could match I in strength or Tianhu in speed. The enraged girls immediately began to deal with their enemies. Meanwhile, life was in full swing in the testing center of the illusory world. A group of guys with a sparkle in their eyes were enthusiastically discussing how Brother Feng had killed all the beasts with the giant sword. If Shu's classmate invited him to join the team next time, he would gladly join. However, the girl refused, adding to her refusal that she preferred to fight alone. The blonde looked at her with excitement, and thought that if this flower was as cold as they said about her, then he would try to pick her. Suddenly a cry was heard that this speed would break all records and that something was wrong with the numbers. Looking at the board in the middle of the wall, Feng saw that a certain participant, Lin Han, was already in the final stage of his trial. People around him couldn't believe that he managed to reach the final stage in just 9 minutes. The girl felt like she definitely knew him, while Feng referred to a simple coincidence of names. My thoughts were interrupted by a loud announcement that the silver dungeon record had been updated to 9 minutes and 8 seconds. At this time, the tired Lin Han was glad that the battle was finally over. As a reward for successfully completing the mission and setting a new record, the guy received the skill of growing thorny vines, which could be useful in future battles. Lin noted that he found the illusory world quite interesting and next time he would try a gold-tier dungeon. Returning to real reality, the young man climbed out of the capsule he was in. Slowly, still recovering from his immersion in the illusory world, Lin walked towards the hall. The news that a new record had been set by a certain Lin Han had already spread among everyone present. The guy was irritated that this time, for some reason, they even told him his name. Although he tried to pass through the crowd unnoticed, the girl saw him. Feng was furious that this guy had stolen his glory again. At this moment, the control center of the illusory world was analyzing the last test. The employee informed the commander that an anomaly had been detected in this world. Namely that a second-stage beast tamer had broken the silver-level record. His solo time is simply incredible, with even some Tier 3 pros unable to achieve such speeds. The commander came to the conclusion that if his beasts were so strong that they could reach such a level in the second stage, then they were definitely geniuses and needed to be recruited into the army immediately. As he left, he ordered that he would receive all the information about this man by tomorrow morning. The next day, the class continued to discuss Lin Han's incredible abilities. The praise of his personality was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Feng Yun's company. He kicked the door open and shouted for Lin Han to come out to him immediately. The guys didn't expect to see him here, and started teasing him about whether he was afraid that Lin Han would punch him in the face. Feng Yun was convinced that Lin Han had broken the record completely by accident, and had simply robbed him of his glory, since Feng's parents had recently been supplying him with resources to level up. Long said with a sneer that Lin Han had gone to the Shadow Mountains to level up and prepare for the third stage. The guys from Feng's company were surprised by this, and noted that Lin Han's leveling speed was simply frightening. Having gotten a taste for it, Long continued to incite Feng, and said that people like him could only somehow reach the second stage with the help of their parents. His words deeply hurt Feng Yun's soul, and he warned Long that he would still answer for his words. The guy was filled with rage and decided that as soon as Lin Han returned, he would smear them both across the floor. On the Shadow Mountains, Lin Han continued his regular training. The wounded animals scattered in different directions, while the boy proudly watched the results of this work. Judging by the speed of his 2 assistants, the third level will be reached in the blink of an eye. Having completed her task, AI threw herself on her master's shoulders to immediately inform him of her results. At this time, Tianhu came up completely calmly, and said that she had killed 2 more animals than her little sister. I didn't like the fact that Tianhu was trying to draw the owner's attention to herself, and said that the girl was lying because she had counted several times, and there couldn't be any mistake. The guy thought about the fact that the animals from the Silver Zone no longer pose any threat to them, and are not suitable even for a warm-up day. Without thinking twice, he suggested going to the Gold Zone to level up. Peering out from behind the bushes, they did not expect to see a pack of poisonous lizards at first. But Lin Han was very serious, so he believed that even the poisonous lizards would not be a problem for them. Without wasting a minute, Lin gave each of the girls a task. I rushed forward with the thought that this time she would kill more monsters than Tianhu. A huge green lizard sprayed a stream of poison towards the girl. The nasty green liquid splashed right on her face. The poison caused paralysis of the body and loss of health, which made I feel unwell. Noticing this, Lin Han became very worried. He ordered Tianhu to use the lightning storm to quickly end it all. Rising high above the ground, Tianhu directed purple lightning beams straight at the lizards. A bright flash of lilac light blinded them. Tianhu's attack is too unpredictable. It's quite difficult to hit the lizards, who have small bodies. Looking for an option to help her, Lin remembered the book he received for setting a record in the illusory world. The same book with various skills appeared in front of the guy. If Tianhu can't hit small targets, using a control skill can increase her accuracy. Lin Han began to carefully study the new skill. Having finished his study, the guy said with a smile on his face that the fun days for the lizards were now over. Finally, Lin decided to put his new power into practice by sending a stream of magic into the ground. Huge vines with sharp thorns began to knock the lizards off their feet, surrounding them. Now that it was more or less possible to hit the monsters, Tianhu directed all the lightning beams straight at the targets. I did not waste time and also helped her master kill the lizards, but from the ground. In just one battle with the lizards, they rose 4 levels, but their noise attracted the attention of the saber-toothed tigers. I and Tianhu are already level 20, and after dealing with the tigers, Lin Han will probably reach that level too. He asked them to try to finish as soon as possible. He didn't have to wait long, and soon the girls successfully dealt with the saber-toothed tigers. After reaching level 20, there was no point in killing monsters anymore, since level points were no longer awarded. After some time, he found himself in the Temple of Changing Professions. not expecting that he would have to change classes so quickly. Lin Han hoped that the task of changing profession would be easier this time, because the past turned out to be a real nightmare. A moment later, a notification rang out throughout the hall that a 5-star mission had been issued, the latest in the last few days. Without a doubt, many decided that it was that same Lin Han again. Now, in order to successfully complete the quest, Lin Han had to collect the necessary materials. That same evening, the guy was already at the ghost pier. He had originally planned to go home, get some sleep, and gather his strength to complete the task. But now things turned out differently. Suddenly, Ai and Tianhu appeared and assured Lin Han that nothing would happen to him because they would protect him. This thought calmed the guy down a little, and he warned the girls that the task would soon begin. At the appointed time, a ghost ship appeared before them, which was their new target. I once heard from Sister Bin about the legend of the ghost ship, and that it was a very popular dungeon that attracted many people who wanted to test themselves. However, most flee in panic, not even knowing what horrors lie inside. Suddenly, a terrifying ghost suddenly flew out towards Lin Han. The guy didn't lose his composure and hit him with all his strength. The ghost flew back to a safe distance and began to smile slyly, looking at the young man. The enemy's reaction made Lin Han very angry. Activating his wings, he flew towards the ghost ship. After dealing with one of the ghosts, Lin realized that he was not receiving experience points. Sister Bean was right about lightning being especially effective against ghost beasts, and ghosts fell into that category. Lin Han thought that it would be great to finish the task quickly. Another wave of ghosts began to approach the guy. Reacting quickly, he ordered Tianhu to deal with them. With one powerful discharge of lightning, she managed to deal with all the monsters. These ghosts are not at all rivals for Tianhu, but for some reason the quest is 5-star, although their level is at most 4 stars. Suddenly, Lin Han heard an incomprehensible howl. As it turned out, ghosts had the ability to unite with each other. The captain of the level 25 ghost ship appeared on the deck. With the arrival of this captain, the mission finally became a little more interesting. Tianhu needed to knock the captain's aim off target while I had to attack him. The captain of the ghost ship tried to shoot at Ai, but the girl dodged it very deftly. While the captain was distracted by Ai, Tianhu snuck up behind him and directed a stream of magic at him. With one deft movement, she knocked the gun out of his hand. The lost pistol confused the captain, and at that moment Ai deftly hit him right in the stomach. Tianhu praised the little ant with pride in her eyes. In response to the praise, Ai also noted that Tianhu had excellent lightning. Noticing that the girls were distracted from their task, Lin Han asked them to deal with the monster first. The ghost was just beginning to come to his senses when suddenly he was attacked again. Without the slightest bit of pity, Ai directed her most furious blow at him. From such a force, the captain of the ghost ship could not stay on the ground and flew a couple of meters away. At this time, Tianhu summoned a thunderstorm. The entire ship was illuminated by a pink glow from the lightning. The captain of the ghost ship was successfully killed. A happy Ai shouted to her master from the deck that it was she who had defeated the enemy. Although this was Ai and Tianhu's first battle together, the result was quite commendable. Now that the ghost ship was protected, it was necessary to find the materials necessary for the task. The first materials he needed were found in the scarlet forest of flame. Approaching the tree with the blue flower, Lin Han noticed that it was guarded by wind lizards. The guy began to consider options on how to get the necessary material. He didn't expect to find the second material he needed so quickly. Tianhu guessed that the blue flower was the eye of the wind and she could fly over and take it. Ai also wanted to help her master. 10 minutes later, Tianhu brought her master the first necessary material. Seeing the essence of the herb in the girl's hands, Lin Han praised her. Now it was Ai's turn to be useful to her master. Having received permission to begin work, the girl began to dig a hole. Tianhu looked strangely at her sister's actions, but Lin hastened to remind her that Ai was, in essence, an ant. For her, digging and shoveling is not a skill, but an instinct. Having made a huge tunnel, the girl dug a passage outside. The little ant is quite capable, and apparently the eye of the wind will soon be in their possession. Ai carefully climbed up the tree trunk straight to her goal, because she couldn't relax until the job was done. Having reached the flower, the girl grabbed it, but Lin felt something was wrong. A strong gust of wind threw the flower high above the ground. The noise began to wake up the wind lizards, who had been sleeping peacefully near the tree. Ai shouted that this wind was simply unbearable, and that it was because of it that she was noticed. Noticing the girl, the evil monsters began to crawl towards her, but she was not afraid of them. There are too many wind lizards, and in an open fight I will be at a disadvantage. Tianhu rushed to help her sister. Realizing that it was better not to waste precious time, the girl activated the skill of rapid running. Grabbing Ai, Tianhu dragged her to safety, but the girl was not happy with this outcome. Despite her sister's displeasure, Tianhu tried to explain that it was their master's order. The girl brought Ai straight to Lin Han so that he could make sure that the girl was definitely okay. The guy smiled mysteriously and said that they should speed up. The enraged lizards were already crawling towards them. Lin Han didn't understand why the one flower he took from them made them so angry. After looking at his data, the guy realized that with his speed it would be difficult to escape from these creatures. Without thinking twice, he invested all his available points into improving his dexterity skill. In just a second, his speed increased so much that even I was seriously surprised. Turning slightly, he shouted for his assistants to speed up a little, because they had very little left. The girls couldn't understand what exactly their master meant. Meanwhile, Lin Han had already run into the depths of the Scarlet Forest. The lizards followed them until they reached the very beginning of this zone. The heat from the burning trees made the reptiles anxious. The girls noticed that the lizards were starting to leave, and decided that the owner had led them there on purpose. Lin said that a flock of fire lizards lived in these places, and even if the grass lizards and wind lizards united, they would still not be able to resist them. Moreover, the third material they need, the flame of the fire dragon, grows precisely among these fire lizards. Lin said that they were entering a high-temperature zone, and as soon as they completed the task, they would immediately go home to rest. The fire lizards slept peacefully among the hot lava. I noticed them first when she peered into the hot liquid. Lin Han's eyes sparkled with excitement. Suddenly, the guy noticed that a new task had appeared, which was to deal with the leader of the lizards. 1,000 points as a reward looked tempting, but if you catch the entire flock of lizards, it won't be easy. Lin decided that he needed to deal with the class change task first, and then he would decide what to do with the leader. In an instant, Tianhu was able to collect the last necessary material. A joyful Lin Han said that this task was not difficult at all. Holding the last material in her hands, the guy began to think about the leader of the fire lizards. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed some strange activity. Tianhu also noticed this and became very tense. The unknown man called out to Lin Han, to which he reacted with excitement. The leader of this group of strangers demanded that they give them the flame of the fire dragon, or he would kill him. The guy couldn't understand who they were and why he should give them anything. In front of him stood Leiden, a member of the Magical Association. Lin Han had heard that this organization accepted awakened people of all professions into its ranks, and often demanded protection money from ordinary people. Leiden was already furious that the guy didn't want to fulfill his demand, but his assistant turned his attention to the girls. I and Tianhu didn't understand what these men wanted from them, so they looked at them with disdain. Seeing the real beauties in front of him, the leader of the group said that along with the material, he needed to give the girls too. Reacting negatively to his statement, Lin Han said that garbage should not be allowed to go out on the streets and should be completely destroyed. Not understanding the meaning of Lin Han's words, Lidong said that it was all nonsense. Since the material was not given to him, he ordered that Lin's arms and legs be broken and then thrown to the lizards. Lidong's henchmen were already preparing to carry out his command, and one of them said that Lei was doing him the honor of taking Lin Han's woman. However, Lin stood there emotionlessly and barely moved. At this time, I and Tianhu rushed to deal with the opponents, defending their master. After a few minutes, only Leiden remained on his feet. The incredible strength of these girls shocked him. While Leidong was recovering from the shock, Lin explained that he was a scientist who tamed beasts, and these two girls were his ancient ferocious beasts. The man could not understand how it was possible to transform into animals like that. Animals don't just abandon their owners. Leiden decided that the best solution was to seriously wound him and escape. Tianhu stood up to defend herself and sternly warned that while she was here, no one would dare touch the owner. The man was clearly not prepared for such a response. I couldn't stand by while Lin Han was in danger, so she rushed to help. The girl hit the villain in the stomach with all her might, but Lin said that he needed him alive. It was decided to tie up the members of the association, which they were not very happy about. With a sly grin, Lin said that there was no enmity between them, and there was no point in him harming them. Besides, he has one task for which they might come in handy. A flock of fire lizards listened with interest to the disgruntled cries. The boys were hung over a cliff where the monsters lived. Tianhu said irritably that they should shout louder. The group, with tears in their eyes, begged for mercy and release, because they realized how wrong they were. With each word they said, the ropes sank closer and closer to the ground. Lin Han assessed the height, while I didn't understand what they were going to do. The guy explained that since they were going to fight the king of the fire lizards, they needed bait for fishing. The ropes that were wrapped around the men began to break. A moment later, the ropes disappeared completely, and the group of guys found themselves on a rock in the middle of lava. The lizards, noticing the new prey, began to slowly crawl towards them. Leiden tried to defend himself against them with magic. These attempts proved futile, as his attacks had no effect on them. Suddenly, the huge lizard decided to pounce straight on the guys. Seeing the group's helplessness, Lin Han asked Tianhu to protect them a little so that they wouldn't die prematurely. In the blink of an eye, the evil lizards scattered in different directions. Suddenly, the lava level began to rise into a huge wave. From this wave, the king of the fire lizards appeared in front of the men. Lin ordered Tianhu to attack him immediately before he noticed. This action made the lizard very angry, but on the contrary, it was beneficial to them. When I asked about the fate of those guys, Lin replied that with their powers they would not last long and would soon die at the hands of the lizards. These people are skilled at killing and robbing like hardened criminals, so if the lizards don't finish them off, Lin will finish them off himself. First of all, it was necessary to figure out how to complete the task. The first furious blow was delivered by Ai. The girl continued to viciously strike blow after blow straight into the monster's neck. First, it was necessary to check the monster's maximum strength. To give him no respite, Tianhu joined the attack. Although the Lizard King is of a higher level, if the girls team up, they can gradually wear him down with a coordinated attack. Suddenly there was a deafening roar. The Fire Lizard King was truly angry. Lin realized that things were going badly and asked the girls to be careful. One of the flame explosions caught Tianhu. However, they managed to evade the lizard's attack in time. Tianhu collapsed to the ground and Ai was worried about her sister's condition. Even though the girls were level 20, the difference with the lizard was not simple, and the death of one of them would have caused huge losses. The exhausted bird looked at its owner and said that it could continue. What the owner must do is very important, and besides, even if they retreat, the lizard will still continue to pursue them. I agreed that the master's work had to be done, and that she was obliged to fulfill his dream. Gathering all their strength, the girls rushed into the attack again. Lin didn't expect such a reaction from them, because he values them very much. If anything, he should have planned the fight carefully so that no one else would get hurt. Lin wondered what he should do to defeat the Lizard King. The guy's attention was drawn to one interesting detail. He noticed a wound on the lizard's body that Ai had inflicted on him. He shouted to the girls that they needed to widen the wound on the monster's neck. Tianhu and Ai did not yet understand what their master had in mind, but they believed that obeying him would be the right decision. Ai grabbed the lizard's open wound so hard that blood spurted out. Feeling the pain, the monster forcefully threw the girl aside. Reacting quickly, Tianhu continued to widen the wound with her attack. Suddenly the lizard fell to the ground, raising a huge cloud of dust. The girls froze in place, waiting for the result. They had been fighting for a very long time, but there was still little result. Lin realized that everything that had been done previously was not enough, and decided to take everything into his own hands. The results were few, as the girls attacked individually. The guy decided to copy and use their skills. This way he will be able to inflict much more effective damage. He decided to use himself as bait, and then call down a lightning strike. The lizard received about 10 billion volts. All he had to do was wait until he turned to coal. After some time, the task was officially completed. Thanks to their master, the girls also increased their level and became much stronger. Lin was glad that he had accomplished what he had planned. Finally, this fight is over. Noticing the exhausted state of the owner, the girls ran up to him. It was necessary to leave immediately, because the fire lizards had most likely already dealt with the guys from the Magic Association and would soon return. After resting a little the next morning, they went to the Temple of Professions. There Lin learned that his level had successfully increased. He was glad to finally get the 3rd degree. Everyone present in the room was shocked that the task that appeared the day before yesterday had already been completed. The girl said that after seeing how fast Mr. Lin was leveling up, she wouldn't be surprised even if the sun rose in the west. Lin Han asked the girls how much their strength had increased. Ai reported that she felt like she had become much stronger. Tianhu received a new combat form after her upgrade. The guy was shocked that they were only 1 level apart, but their performance was so different. However, he decided that since they were his tamed beasts, their strength was only better for him. Lin didn't even have time to look at the award for the 3rd stage and didn't know what to choose. The girls also looked at the new available skills with interest. I was very interested in the skill of merging with the owner, which in turn confused the guy. If Ai and Tianhu's powers were combined, the result would be far more powerful than a simple copy of the skills, and even merging with the Lizard King would be much easier for him to handle. He thought about the fact that for now he needed to choose something simple but powerful, since more skills would be available at level 4. While the girls were rejoicing, one of them noticed something interesting. Soon a new task appeared before them. It involved making a contract with the 3rd beast, which greatly interested the guy. Ai was very upset that Lin was going to find the 3rd beast. To comfort her upset sister, Tianhu patted her on the head. She said that even if Lin found a new beast, he would not abandon them. With a sly grin, she looked at her master, expecting him to confirm her words. He hesitated slightly and said that the most important thing for them now was to level up well, because they had an important task ahead of them. A few days later, the entrance examination was held at the first middle school of Zhou City. The director reported that on this important day, representatives from various academies came to them to recruit students. Lin was so busy leveling up that he almost forgot about the exam, and if he had missed it, Sister Bin would probably have torn him to pieces. Suddenly Lin heard Ai's voice. While Tianhu tried to calm her down, Ai complained that she couldn't stay there without her master. He thought that forcing the girls to sit in a space that had previously been used as a warehouse was rather cruel. But still, the event was serious, and their appearance would be inappropriate. At this time, they began to introduce the guests of honor who had arrived at the event. Among them were Director Li Tui of Beitian Academy and Director Liu Tianyi of Qingsheng Academy. Lun was surprised that directors from two of the empire's leading academies had arrived. A friend asked Lin which of these two academies he would like to enroll in. The guy was much more interested in who the mysterious man in the suit represented. At this moment, the director announced that the person standing in front of them was the director of the military academy, Ye Taiqing. Lun asked what level Lin had reached, and suggested that he would be able to blow everyone to pieces since he had reached level 15. The guy laughed and noted that his friend had leveled up quite well over the past few days. Suddenly, Feng Yun's voice was heard from the crowd of people. He said that only a naive person like Long could believe that the weakling Lin Han would reach the third stage. In an attempt to defend his friend's honor, Long almost got into a fight, but Lin was able to stop him in time. The guy didn't miss the opportunity to remind Feng of his debt, which he lost to him in a bet. He got angry and said that Lin would definitely lose to him today. He chuckled and said he was afraid Feng would be disappointed again. The exam is about to begin, which consists of level testing and combat practice. The level check will not affect the grade, but will help you better understand your strengths and assist in forming teams before combat practice. As for the second part, combat practice evaluates the ability to quickly adapt to a situation and work in a team. Following the announcement of the results, the top 3 teams will receive a special resource package from the academy and priority admission. The director added that, to ensure that no one cheats, the final decision will be made based on personal combat skills and an overall assessment. After the conditions were explained, the exam officially began. The students stood in a huge queue in front of the stone that checked the levels. Each person approached in turn and found out their class, profession, and level. Many people were interested in how Lin Han had prepared, because this exam could decide his future. The woman became furious, remembering that Lin did not take her void beast, which she had spent so long catching. Feng told Teacher Bai that she should carefully choose who to protect. Since she only talked about Lin Han, Feng couldn't figure out what it was about him that made him be given such care. With anger in her eyes, Bai replied that if he spoke badly about her student again, he would suffer. Feng thought with glee that he was still stronger than Lin Han. Without thinking twice, the guy touched the stone that determined the level. Bai was very surprised because he had the highest level all day. The other students began to whisper that with such results, the directors of the academies would fight for the right to accept him. As Feng left, he told Lin Han that he was currently the strongest in their school. Lin didn't react, but just smiled and said that it wasn't a fact yet. The guy immediately added that his results had just been surpassed. Standing in front of the stone was Leng Lingshui, who is said to be one of the top 2 in the school. The director decided to introduce the girl to all the guests and called her the real pride of the school. The directors of other academies began to argue about which academy this girl would go to. The director of the military academy asked about a certain Lin Han in their school, and whether he was present today. At that moment, the next participant was just being announced, and it was Lin. The man looked at the guy with interest, expecting a new surprise from him. Feng quipped that before this test, all the monsters would show their true faces. He soon added that he was looking forward to Lin being disgraced. Teacher Bai was furious at his words and felt that he needed to be given a good beating. Putting his hand on her shoulder, Lin said that the only way to deal with him was to give him a good slap in the face. The guy couldn't wait for his turn to check the level. Looking at him proudly, the teacher said that it was time for him to go. According to the dean, the ball could only determine strength up to level 20, and the boy was interested in what result it would show him. When I touched the ball, something strange started to happen. No one had ever seen such a strong vibration before. Suddenly, cracks began to appear on the ball. A moment later, the ball exploded completely, and fragments flew in all directions. The other students couldn't understand what had just happened. The teacher quickly ran to Lin Han and asked if he was hurt. Even she couldn't understand why the measuring device had broken, since it had been checked before the exam. Feng shouted from the crowd that this was because Han's strength was so terrifying. Suddenly, a familiar voice was heard, agreeing with Feng's words. Behind him, Lin Han saw Cao Chong. The dean said he would punish him, but if he was still in school, he had strong support. The teacher said that it was not Cao Chong, but his twin brother Cao Xiang, and he was also the examiner. Xiang turned to the dean and said that Lin Han had damaged school property and failed the level test. The guy's words about disqualifying him from participating in the practical test shocked Lin Han. The examiner should not transfer personal grievances to the exam. Lin said that if Examiner Cao could not treat everyone equally, he had better resign quickly. The man began to defend himself by saying that such a useless profession as animal taming was not worth the precious time of the leaders. Everyone began to agree that his strength was so low that it could not even be tested. Suddenly a man approached the guy and said that he himself heard what the two managers said. The dean stood in front of them. Feng waited with excitement for the man to continue his words. If Lin Han couldn't continue his studies, his career would quickly end. At this time, Lin calmly replied that shouldn't a person's strength be judged by his combat performance? In the guy's defense, the director of the military academy said that the level test is only needed to find out personal information, and the most important thing is the upcoming practical test. Other directors, at a loss, began asking if he could find truly talented people. After the military academy director's words, everyone decided that they needed to watch Lin Han's performance first, and then draw conclusions. The head of the military academy asked if everyone agreed with this decision. The dean thanked him for giving Lin Han a chance. They say that he is always extremely principled, so everyone was surprised that the director stood up for him. Now, with this turn of events, Lin Han must show his best side. At this time, Feng did not calm down and shouted after them that trash would remain trash, no matter where it was. The guy laughed at his own words. Hanyu was tired of listening to Feng's stupid words, so he told him to leave him alone. Otherwise, he will not hesitate to deal with him personally during the fight. Lin Han suggested that Feng meet after the fight if he was so cool. The dean announced that the second round of the practical test was beginning, where students could form teams of 3. The test will be broadcast live, and university administrators will be able to see every action of the participants. Long decided to invite Lin Han to join forces with him for the test. The guy replied with a smile that from now on he would rely on his care. Suddenly, a cute girl approached them and addressed Lin. It was Shu Ting from the 3rd grade who asked them to accept her into the team. Lun joked with the guy that even the school beauty from the 3rd grade came herself, but Lin said that he didn't remember her. The guy was worried that if they joined forces thoughtlessly, there was a risk of exposing Ai and Tianhu. The young men had to refuse her, under the pretext that they had a full team. Lin hastened to reassure the girl that she would certainly be able to find a better team. In response, Lun whispered in his ear that without a girl on the team it would be boring, especially since the maximum number of people allowed was 3. Zhu began to beg the guy to accept her, because she knows about his record in the illusory world, and only with him does she have a chance to win. The girl was a 15th level elite knight, and she promised that she wouldn't drag them down. After thinking for a moment, Lin decided that such a sincere girl as she would not play unfairly in a fight. The friend clearly didn't like the fact that he didn't want to take Shu into the team. Long decided that the best option would be to start pestering Lin Han, and he suddenly decided to agree. Hearing this, the girl was in 7th heaven. After filling out the form with the names of the participants, Lin gave it to Bing. Seeing Shu Ting from the 3rd grade among the names, the woman was surprised. The guy said that her profession fit well into the structure of their team, so he hired her. Before this, they wanted to recommend him to take Leng Lingshui into the team, but Feng Yun got ahead of them. Lin asked Sister Bin not to worry about his team's success, because he would definitely win. The embarrassed girl replied that she was not worried about him, but was simply afraid that Lin would disgrace their 6th grade. Before the guy left, she asked him to be careful. Due to nervousness, the woman squeezed the form tightly in her hands. In the end, she rushed to him and asked him to contact her if something happened. Meanwhile, the team to test Lin Han was already waiting for him. Lin thought about how there were so many people around him who were worried about him. It seems that this time during the practical test, he can no longer hide his strength. The test took place in a forbidden wasteland, which was divided into several zones. It was important to take care of the bracelets issued by the school, which were used to count points, and to keep track of the rankings of other teams. Now the participants had to choose a zone according to their strength and score as many points as possible. Feng Yun's team had already killed 2 fire lizards and scored 80 points. Len stood calmly in place despite the fact that there were many dangerous lizards around her. With a snap of her fingers, she summoned a stream of magic. A moment later, all the lizards that tried to attack her were covered in a thick layer of ice. Thanks to the girl, Feng Yun's team was able to score another 80 points. All the battles of the test participants were broadcast on a huge screen near the school. The academy directors discussed how, thanks to Len, the team had taken first place in the rankings, and the participants could secure victory. The other teams are gradually earning points, but Lin Han's team still hasn't received a single one. Teacher Bai thought that everyone simply didn't understand Lin Han's true potential, and that he would still surprise everyone. Suddenly a warning about some kind of danger appeared on the screen. Lin and his team slowly crossed the border of the Silver Zone, where dangerous monsters are often encountered. The guy thought that if Lung found out that he started leveling up from this very zone, his eyes would pop out of his head. In the general chat, Lin noticed a message from Feng Yun, in which he said that he was now in first place, and it would be difficult to catch up with him. Hearing this, Long was irritated and said that Feng Yun was simply disgusting. Hanyu received a notification that a new gold-level quest had been unlocked. He said that even if that team completely cleared the bronze zone, they would not be able to harm them, since 1 point for a silver-level beast is equal to 3 points. Shu Ting added that silver-level beasts have a herd instinct and generally move in packs, so if they encounter them, it will be quite difficult. Lin responded to this by saying that their task was to prevent them from leaving, and that he would deal with them himself, and then they would move to the gold zone. The guys were shocked when they heard about the golden leveling zone. The guy said that the gold zone gives the most points, so they definitely need to get there. On the way, they were met by their first enemy in the form of a level 18 hyena. Lun agreed that the gold zone was worth more points, but he was worried that they wouldn't be able to get through it. Gathering all his strength, Lin made the first strike of the test. From such an attack, the confused wolf flew high into the air. The other monsters in the pack became enraged and ran towards Lin Han. With one move, he dealt with all the hyenas, which brought his team a lot of points. Watching this, Long and Zhu Ting were shocked by the strength that Lin Han showed them. Having scored 900 points, Lin asked the guys if they had decided to go with him to the gold zone. After what they had just seen with their own eyes, the team could not refuse him, and agreed. The examiners watched with interest as the warning sounded that Lin Han's team had entered the silver leveling zone. Teacher Shu Ting was furious that he had taken her student into such a dangerous area and warned that if anything happened to her, she would not forgive him. Lin Han's teacher was confident that he would not do anything he was not sure of. In the background, she heard one of the examiners comment that the guy simply realized he couldn't win, so he led his team to certain death. The woman did not like what Instructor Chow said, so she asked about his teaching ethics. In response, Chow said that the silver zone is not for such newbies, and if something happens to them, there will be big problems. Suddenly, someone noticed that Lin Han's team's points had suddenly increased sharply. Now his team got their first points for killing monsters from the silver zone. The director of the military academy paid attention to the team rankings, especially the points of Lin Han's team. Everyone was surprised that the points only increased each time, so they asked to display the progress of this team's test on the screen. On the screen, everyone saw that a huge ant was dealing with a terrible wolf. After a while, Lin Han could be seen controlling a large bird, and everyone admiringly assumed that these were his beasts. Many decided that this was Student Han's trump card, and that he was not as bad as Instructor Chow said. However, the man still doubted Lin Han's abilities. At this time, the guy's team was gaining more and more points. Teacher Shu Ting said with admiration that Lin Han's two beasts were real point-collecting machines. Instructor Cao was extremely unhappy that with the rate at which their team's points were growing, they could easily take first place. Teacher Bai asked the woman if she still thought Lin had led her student to certain death, to which she replied that she was just joking. Now Bai understood why the guy didn't want to take the empty beast, because he had better options. With each new monster killed, Lin Han's team rose higher in the rankings. Long and Shu were genuinely happy that, thanks to the guy, their team was now in third place. Having dealt with the last monsters, Lin turned around and said that it was time to look for a new place. The girl said hesitantly that no one in this generation was likely capable of achieving such combat power at the second stage. In response, Lin laughed and replied that no one said that he was only at the second level. The boys couldn't believe Lin Han's words. Lun ran up to the guy and started asking how he had reached such a level so quickly. The silver zone no longer suited them, so a unanimous decision was made to move to the gold zone. The teachers were shocked that the team had decided to go to the most difficult area of this test. The teacher began to worry about Lin Han, because his decision was very dangerous. The instructor continued to make snide comments about the team's performance, calling them overconfident. Cao's ignorance was already getting on the nerves of those around him. The woman said that instead of being sarcastic, he should have faith in his students, because that's what good teachers do. Chao was furious that if it weren't for Lin Han, his brother wouldn't have ended up in prison, and this time he had to deal with him. Meanwhile, on the border between the bronze and silver levels, Feng Yun's team was undergoing its test. The boy confidently decided that with their speed, they had gone far ahead, and Lin Han would not be able to catch up with them. Suddenly, a notification with the location of silver-level ferocious beasts arrived on Feng's phone. Len suggested killing the monsters here and not going any further, because if they ran into a pack of silver-level beasts, it would be a disaster. At this time, Feng Yun was no longer around. The girl heard strange sounds and decided that a ferocious beast was approaching them. She saw Feng Yun running away from the monkey demon and offered to help her deal with him. He decided that if he could kill this handy monkey demon, he would definitely win. Suddenly, the monster came so close that it was about to grab Feng Yun. Small ice spikes formed on the ground. A powerful stream of ice magic wounded the monkey demon in the chest. This action only worsened the situation and enraged the monster. The girl was angered by the fact that Feng disobeyed her request not to get involved with the silver beasts. In that moment, she realized that the young man had set her up, and she regretted not having immediately refused to team with him. The monkey demon, in a fit of anger, was able to free himself from the icy shackles. A moment later, he was about to rush into the attack. All of Len's attacks were simply ignored by the monster, causing no significant damage. With a sharp movement, he pushed off the ground and jumped. As he flew over the girl, he let out a threatening roar. Out of desperation, she only managed to group herself. From somewhere, a huge ant attacked the monkey demon. Len's eyes filled with genuine surprise. Turning back, she noticed Lin Han approaching them. The guy asked how they did it. At that moment, I brutally dealt with the monster. Tianhu flew to her aid in the form of a bird. I delivered the final crushing blow, causing a purple glow to form. After a couple of minutes, the monkey demon was finally dead. Leng was shocked that Lin Han's war beasts were so powerful that they could easily deal with a level 20 demon. Lin Han was extremely dissatisfied that Feng Yun's team dared to provoke a level 20 ferocious beast with their strength. Turning around, he noticed Feng standing there with a disappointed look on his face. He initially thought that the students were attacked by a ferocious beast, but if he had known that Feng Yun was here, he would have intervened a little later. The guy fell with his hands right into a pool of blood. He looked at Lin Han with eyes filled with disdain. Grabbing Lin Han's shirt with his blood-stained hands, Feng shouted that he had taken the loot from him. A trail of blood spread across the guy's gray t-shirt. The girl hastened to calm Feng down and said that if it weren't for Lin, he would have been crushed into meat long ago. Feng couldn't accept the fact that he had just been saved, so he said that Lin had simply come for his glasses. The girl couldn't stand it any longer and gave the guy a resounding slap. He was furious that Leng Lingshui dared to hit him. She reminded him that they had agreed that she would help him take first place, and his family would give her exclusive equipment, so he had no right to yell at her. Feng didn't know how to accept defeat, so he tried to blame everything on Lin Han. As he left, Lin said he had enjoyed watching them, but his teammates were clearly waiting for him. With a mischievous grin on his face, Feng thought that while Lin Han still had the opportunity to be so impudent, when the guy enters the golden leveling zone, something bad awaits him. At this time, on the outskirts of the golden zone, Long and Shu were waiting for Lin. The boys were very happy when they heard their friend's voice. Lun rushed to meet Han with tears in his eyes. The guy was very worried that they could get hurt in the golden leveling zone without Lin Han's help. Noticing the 28th level ghost wolf behind Lin, Lun fell into a stupor of horror. A second later, Lin himself noticed a strange movement behind his back. The wolf almost attacked the guy, but he managed to react in time and fight back. The wounded animal flew away towards the trees. Yu reminded that these wolves live in packs, so they should be more careful. Lin noticed that the rest of the wolves from the pack were already sneaking up on them. Before that, they killed a lot of animals, so I and Tianhu managed to increase their level. The guy shouted that the girls had 10 minutes to deal with all the monsters and turn them into experience. I activated her power and dealt with numerous wolves in a matter of minutes. Tianhu also did not lag behind in gaining experience for her master. Within minutes, the entire pack of wolves was dead. Destroying so many fierce beasts and leveling up is a good thing. No one knows what else they will encounter ahead, so just in case, Lin strengthened himself in advance. A quickly ran up to her owner. Coming closer, she jumped into his arms. Not having calculated her strength, she knocked the guy to the ground and said that she had killed all the dogs. Tianhu was dissatisfied with Ai's behavior and said that the master should not be claimed only for oneself. Zhu turned to Long Tianjiao and said that Han was incredibly strong if he could turn ferocious beasts into pets. Lin tossed the boys 2 tops so they could finish them off and gain at least a little experience. The boys thanked him with a strange smile. Lun decided to see what place they are in the ranking at the moment. Lin Han's team took first place in the ranking, and the kids were curious what the teachers would think when they saw it. The director of one of the academies said that Lin Han would go to them. The second man replied that Qingsheng had no experience in training beastmasters, so Lin should go to Beidian. The men began to argue about whose academy was better and more worthy of such an incredibly strong student. The teachers from Lin Han's school were surprised that the dispute started because of one student, and from their school at that. Director Qingshen proposed a fight to decide who should get Lin Han. The men's attention was distracted by the figure that appeared, and the argument temporarily stopped. The director of the military academy stood before them and said that they had forgotten about one important person. Qingsheng and Beitian are certainly the best universities in the empire, but they cannot compare with the military academy. Mr. Ye said that he admired Lin Han, but everyone had their own path, so only Han himself could choose a place to study. In the end, he added that the conversation should only continue after Lin Han returned from the mission. The shocked men silently agreed. The dean of the school burst into tears because the heads of all the most elite academies of the empire were interested in a student from his school. Teacher Bai said that Lin Han was indeed very outstanding, and he deserved today's achievements. The examiner couldn't understand why Lin had become so strong. Meanwhile, in the Silver Zone, Feng Yun noticed that Lin's team had taken first place, overtaking him. With irritation in his voice, he told his partner that they still had a chance to regain first place. In response, Len chuckled and said that Feng was hoping in vain. Hearing this, The guy became even more angry, and asked if it wasn't she who wanted to get a powerful weapon. The girl was very tired from this test and could not continue it, so if Feng wants to score points, he must go alone. The guy was not happy with this outcome of events. Soon the test was over and it was time to sum up the results. Feng Yun's squad and Leng Lingshui were currently in second place. The dean noted that Lan acted very skillfully and knew how to take advantage of the moment to kill a strong enemy. He said about Feng that his eagerness to get ahead almost got him into trouble. Both students showed good performance, which will be supported in the future. Feng Yun deliberately smeared monkey blood on Lin Han's t-shirt, which attracted many dangerous beasts. Suddenly he heard cries of delight that Lin had returned. Lin Han's squad took first place in the rankings and Long couldn't believe it. The sudden appearance of the boys sent shivers down Feng Yun's spine, as he had expected them not to survive. The guy realized that his plan hadn't worked, and everything had worked out well for the guys. Upon seeing the competition winners, the academy directors ran to meet them. Each of the representatives of the Empire's best academies tried to lure Lin Han to their side by offering various bonuses. Confused by the two directors' active efforts, Lin Han was at a loss for words to respond. At this time, the men kept shouting over each other and offering their academy as the best for Lin Han. Observing this, the team decided that these two were like old swindlers who, having not gotten what they wanted, began to persuade with all their might. The two men's heated argument was interrupted by the director of the military academy, who asked to speak with Lin Han alone. With a serious look, he asked the boy if he could tell him about his level, since it was known that he had passed the third stage. All the people nearby were in complete shock from what they heard. No one could believe that Lin Han had advanced to the third stage. The director from Beitian and the director from Qingchen were surprised to hear about the boy's abilities and thought that they had found real gold. Participant Shu's teacher asked Teacher Bai why she hadn't told her earlier that Lin Han had passed the third stage, because if she had known this information, she wouldn't have been so worried. At this time, Teacher Bai herself did not know this information, since the boy hid it from her. Feng Yun considered himself the #1 genius in their school, so he was furious at what he heard. He suddenly shouted that Lin Han was trying to deceive the teachers because he most likely cheated on the test. Lin Han and the director of the military academy simultaneously said that they almost forgot about Feng Yun's presence. Not expecting such synchronicity, the men looked at each other. Lin Han thought that Chief Ye had also noticed that Feng Yun had tried his best to harm him, and even given him a chance to expose him. Casting a sideways glance at Feng, Lin knew he couldn't pass up this chance. With a grin on his face, the guy showed Feng his level. Having gotten into the swing of things, Lin said that Feng was wrong to be sure of his death, even despite the monkey blood he left on Lin Han's t-shirt. Realizing that he had been exposed, Feng Yun denied everything he had heard. Suddenly the sound of women's heels was heard. Bai's teacher said that there was no point in denying it, since all his actions were recorded on the monitor. A strange grin appeared on the guy's face. Lin Han realized that something was fishy here. Feng Yun confidently asked Instructor Chow to open his monitoring so that everyone could see. The instructor said that Feng had given him the recording before the test began, but unfortunately, his surveillance device was damaged in the fight, and the recording could no longer be played. The woman, not believing his words, snatched the recording device from his hands. The instructor chuckled, because he knew that the recording of the test had been edited, and the people had no evidence that they were trying to harm Lin Han. Suddenly, someone said that he had another copy of the recording, and he could show it. It was the director of the military academy who said that in order to understand how each student performed, the military had installed cameras in all areas in advance. Initially, this was done only to avoid errors in grading. But who would have thought that the notes would also become evidence? The screen showed a shot of a guy deliberately smearing the blood of a demonic monkey. Later, everyone saw him applying this blood to Lin Han's t-shirt. Mr. Ye said that Feng Yun's trick was clearly designed to attract a gold-ranked beast and destroy Lin Han and his comrades. He added that the boy was lucky that he was not a soldier, and that his actions did not cause serious harm. Otherwise, for betraying his comrade, he would have made his life unbearable and would have made him deeply repent. Because the guy was exposed, he couldn't even put a couple of words together. The dean of the school was disappointed in him, because such a mean thing that he committed could disgrace the name of their school. Interrupting the dean's dissatisfaction, Lin Han said that Feng Yun was just a pawn. The guy wondered how a student like him could know about the effects of the demon monkey's blood, and besides, his monitoring recording was damaged. He said that the coincidence that Instructor Cao's brother had been against Han several times, and that the monitor had broken in his hands looked very suspicious. In response, the man said that it had nothing to do with him and that he was just an examiner. He added that Feng Yun was such a vile person that he was ashamed to be in league with him. Hearing this, the boy became furious and said that Uncle Xiang couldn't do this to him. In a fit of anger, he revealed exactly what the instructor had told him about the effects of monkey blood. Suddenly, the man kicked Feng Yun in the jaw and told him to be quiet. The young man fell to the ground from the strong blow. During the fall, Feng Yun's phone fell out of his pocket. Noticing this, Teacher Bai picked him up and looked at the correspondence. She said that the guy was right and there really was a message from Chao Xiang on his phone. Hearing this, the man rushed towards the woman to take away the phone and shouted that it was all slander. The dean of the school was completely furious at what was happening and said that he did not expect Chao Xiang to be as vile as his brother. The man believed that such a vile person as Instructor Cao should be punished for his actions. After knocking him to the ground, the dean asked that Chao Xiang be handed over to the military authorities for consideration. The director of the military academy promised that the man would face severe punishment, as he had used his position for personal gain, framing a student. Representatives from other academies felt that with such a reputation, Feng Yun was not welcome in any elite academy. Everyone was whispering that they had not only disgraced themselves, but also lost their future. Lin Han thought that if the AI hadn't been affected by the demonic monkey's blood, he wouldn't have noticed Feng Yun's petty mischief so quickly. The guy didn't expect that Chief Ye would reveal everything so easily, and called him a truly worthy person from the military academy. The director of the military academy approached Lin Han. He said that the guy had shown himself to be excellent in combat, and the military academy would always be glad to accept him. The decision about choosing the future depended solely on Lin Han. Other representatives from the academies were still trying to convince the boy. The school dean thought that for the first time in so many years, he had seen two academies and a military academy fighting so hard for one person. After some time, the dean made the announcement that the great test was officially over, and the award ceremony was now beginning. Third place was taken by Du Haonan, Tian Kun, and Yuan Bo. The second place was taken by the team of Feng Yun and Leng Ningxue. The first place rightfully went to Lin Han, Long Tianjiao, and Xu Ting. As a special reward, disciple Lin Han was awarded a villa in the center of the city, and a high-level strength skill book. He was also given a golden necklace that increased all of the user's stats by 20% for 3 minutes, but it could only be used 3 times. Lin Han thanked Principal Lao for his support and for such generous rewards, and he also expressed his gratitude to the school for its education. The dean said that words of gratitude could be expressed later, but now Teacher Bai should take him to see the villa. After some time, they were already approaching the villa in a car. In the car, the teacher asked the boy if he had decided which academy he would choose. When the guy asked her opinion, she said that if he wanted stability, he should choose Qingbei Academy. Lin Han thought about his choice, because if it weren't for the system, he would have chosen this academy. But the military academy was more promising for his development. He thought that he needed points more than resources, and they could be obtained in battle by tempering himself. After some time, the guy decided that he would enter a military academy. Even if the Bai family is very influential, its power is unlikely to extend to the military academy. However, Lin wasn't too worried because I and Tianhu were with him. Hearing this, Tianhu said that from now on they must serve their master especially well. Suddenly the driver turned the steering wheel sharply. At that speed, the car made a very sharp maneuver. Because of this, Lin Han was unable to stay in place. In an instant, the guy found himself on some surface. A few seconds later, Lin realized that he was now on a woman's lap. When the woman asked him if he needed a new beast now, he replied that he was looking for a fire beast. Without thinking twice, the woman replied that on the neighboring mountain, there was a fire forest inhabited by a platinum-level firebird that could help him enter the military academy. She added that, judging by Lin's level, he was only a short distance away from the 4th stage. A moment later, she asked him if he had enjoyed the comfortable seat enough. The confused guy replied that that was enough. Tucked her hair behind her ear, the girl said that right now they would go to the fiery forest. After some time, they found themselves in that same fiery forest. Sister Bin said that even if there was no flame bird there, she would still find something similar for him. But for now, he needed to level up and prepare for the 4th step. A threatening roar of a beast was heard nearby. A whole pack of fiery lions was heading straight towards the guy. The woman said that if he was scared, he could hide behind his sister. The lions, without missing the opportunity, began to attack. Bin used her magic to protect herself. The boy thought that Sister Bin was really that strong even against fire beasts that usually resisted ice abilities. At the same time, she left them with a low amount of health so that they could be killed in one hit. Lin Han asked her about her strength level. The guy ordered his assistants to deal with the animals. In a matter of seconds, he leveled up. A moment later, he reached the maximum limit and needed to change class to get points. Bean asked the guy if he had reached his limit, to which he replied yes. The girl grabbed his hand. She said that now they must move on, because the place where the fiery bird lives is still ahead. Deep in the fire forest, they found a huge tree on which sat a large firebird. Bin and Lin looked at her with admiration. The woman was glad that the information turned out to be correct, and the firebird was really here. The guy got ready to go after the bird. With a light movement, he made a high jump. Bean couldn't figure out when he had mastered the skill of flying. Lin realized that it was time for him to show Sister Bin what he was capable of. I also jumped towards the firebird. The surprised animal did not expect such an outcome of events. With one confident blow, the ant struck the bird right in the eye. There was a bright flash that blinded Bean. Descending above the susceptible bird, Lin Han used the power of the contract. After checking her stats, the guy was surprised that the bird's level was higher than that of his assistants, but her stats weren't even half as good. Bean said that it was time for her to leave, to which the guy asked if she was leaving because of work or for another reason. She said that she would be leaving Wuju in the coming days, so the next meeting might not happen soon. She stopped briefly in front of the car door. Turning around, the girl said that she would wait until he came to find her. Lin Han, with a firebird on his shoulder, watched the car drive away. When the car was completely out of his sight, he turned to the bird and said that it looked like it was time to return to the ancestors. After some time, he activated this feature. A girl with eyes like two fiery flames appeared in front of him. The return to the ancient blood of the firebird was successful. The girl ran up to him and asked him to hug her. After some time, they again found themselves in the Temple of Class Change. Lin Han was given a 5-star quest again, but this time he knew he could handle it with ease. Those present in the temple were surprised that this was yet another 5-star task in recent times. The confident steps of several people were heard in the hall. Lin Han walked to the middle of the hall with his assistants. With delight on his face, he announced that it was now time to go and do the assignments for the 4th grade. These tasks this time took place in the swamp of bitter water. Looking into the water, the guy thought that this swamp did not look so dangerous. The silhouette of several snakes appeared among the water. Seeing the strangers, they became very angry and decided to attack. Lin Han decided that this was an opportunity to level up the firebird and ordered it to deal with the snakes. The girl said that she would be only happy to try to make her owner happy. Her fire magic caused significant damage to the terrible snakes. While his assistant was dealing with the monsters, Lin Han said that he found it strange that there were only snakes here, and not a single turtle lizard. Xiao looked around and said that she saw turtle lizards right in front of her. Lin gave a thumbs up and said it was very good work, adding that there was no need to delay and that they needed to go quickly. They went to the water, where they saw a large number of turtles, which made the guy feel uneasy. He felt it all as if he was having an attack of trypophobia. Lin thought that this was even good, because he wouldn't have to look for them everywhere when they were all already gathered in one place. The guy ordered Ai and Tianhu to be the ones to deal with the crowd of turtles. The girls immediately went to them and shouted to their master that he should not worry about them, that he could rely on them. Lin told Xiao to stay by his side, which would give them a chance to level up. A skillfully delivered her blow, and the turtles began to fly away in different directions. Tianhu also did not stand aside. She used her maximum strength to deliver a strong blow. Lin was resting at this time and was delighted by how wonderful it was to just lie there and do his tasks. The guy jumped up suddenly from the loud splash of water. He watched what was happening with caution. The king of the turtle lizards emerged from the water, his loud roar echoing over a long distance. Lin's legs even gave way from surprise, and he cried out in horror at how huge he was. But then he came to his senses that an ordinary person, having seen the 49th level of the Turtle Lizard King, would have long ago fled in panic. But he had a system. The goal of the mission was to defeat the Turtle Lizard King, for which he would be awarded 1,500 Beast Tamer points. Lin thought that if his 3 fierce beasts joined forces, they could fight. The boy shouted at Ai to use her enormous power. Lin looked towards Tianhu and told her to use Thunderstorm. Xiao was the final one in this battle. She had to deliver the final, most powerful blow. The Turtle Lizard King let out a deafening cry of agony, as if from the depths of space. But after a couple of seconds, the monster, having plunged into the water, appeared outside again. Lin thought to himself that it was no longer surprising that he was a level 49 Turtle Lizard King, because he had just survived the full force of the 3 beasts' attacks. Something unexpected happened. Lin's thoughts were interrupted. Some monster bit out the throat of the king of the turtle lizards. The task had failed, and the points had also been lost. Now the main task was to defeat the king of the Blackwater Python, for which he would receive 2,000 points of the Beast Guarantor. Lin decided to try out the system's skill, First Level Fusion, on him. Small pixels began to spray into the air from each one, the first being Ai, immediately following her, with a smile on her face. Tianhu seemed to dissolve into thin air. Lastly, with a sarcastic and thoughtful expression on her face was Xiao Zhen. Lin clenched the power of the 3 warriors into his fist like stardust. All 3 forces began to merge and penetrate the guy himself. His gaze changed dramatically. A few moments later, a warrior appeared, one side of him glowing with blue light, and the other flickering with a bright fiery color. Even under the mask one could sense the fighting spirit and serious attitude towards the upcoming battle. After the merger, Lin became level 30. His agility and strength were almost 90,000, which surprised him greatly. The Blackwater Python King was at level 39. Lin was able to continue communicating with the girls and told them not to worry, that he could handle it. He summoned the phoenix flame to himself, and his hands were already ablaze with fire. The blue glow was already almost invisible. The guy put his hands out in different directions and the flames scattered. The water pythons could not resist it. Lin happily announced that he had easily dealt with the small fry, and now it was the turn of the king blackwater python. He once again summoned the enormous power of the phoenix flame. A purple flame appeared near his head, as if such a large amount of power was trying to break out. Lin took off from the ground and jumped straight at the blackwater python king with a huge flame behind him. He deftly and quickly struck the python's neck with his fist, splitting it in two and sending its head flying off to the side. Landing on the ground, Lin proudly said that everything was ready, and it was easier than expected. The guy heard strange sounds behind him, growls and splashes of water. Turning his head, he wondered if he was still alive. Through the fog, he noticed 2 pairs of red, angry eyes and huge mouths. An alarm went off warning that abnormal vibrations had been detected in the dungeon, and that a rare beast, the bitterwater swanyu, might have appeared. Zhu was shocked by what she heard. She realized that this was happening right where Mr. Lin was now. One of the girls said that she felt that it was not a real swanyu, that it was just a semblance created by the fusion of similar creatures. Lin was puzzled as to how they had managed to merge and transform into such a huge beast. The guy directed all his strength straight at the monster, but it skillfully resisted the blow. Lin indignantly said that he wanted to spare the monster's life for study, but he betrayed his military honor by attacking from behind. He cried out that with his system, he could make a contract with the 10 strongest beasts, so he simply didn't need it. Lin summoned both the phoenix flame and the thunderstorm at the same time, shouting for the creature to die quickly. The guy seemed to be out of his mind because he kept screaming at himself to die several times in a row. A notification arrived that Lin had defeated the Bitterwater Xuanwu, for which he received a platinum-level item, namely, a shield. Lin cried out with joy that he had finally completed the task. He said that now it was time for them to go to the class change temple. He was about to leave, but his nails were loose. Due to the side effect of the fusion skill, he was in a weakened state. The effect itself would only begin to wear off in 3 hours. Lin realized that this good skill had its limitations, and decided that he would only use it as a trump card. They arrived at the temple, where a notification came that the class promotion quest had been successfully completed. Lin had successfully reached the 4th level. New skills also appeared. The guy was surprised that they were simply incredible. Many people dream of invisibility. Suddenly, another notification arrived that the owner had reached the 4th level and the system's promotion reward had been launched. Lin was presented with a small list of skills that he could choose from, and without thinking twice, he decided to take the perception blocker. After his agreement with the skill, it was immediately successfully activated. Lin said with a smile on his face that it was now time for them to go to the military academy. Not much time passed, and the guy was already on his way there. He realized that Xiao and Tianhu were too conspicuous in their forms as war beasts. In crowded places, it was still more convenient to take Ai with him. His thoughts were interrupted by someone calling his name from behind him. Turning around, he saw the fat man and Shu Ting. He looked at them questioningly and asked how they ended up here. Lun said that they had previously agreed to enter the same academy, adding that he would always follow him. Hugging him, he said that they wanted to surprise him when they arrived at the academy, but they did not expect to meet him here. Lin said he was glad Long was there, adding that they would stick together from now on. They all went together to some nearby hotel. Lin didn't enjoy the meeting for long. As soon as Long fell asleep, loud snoring was heard in the room, which made it difficult for the guy to sleep. He was very angry, because tomorrow they still had to go through the forest of fallen heroes, and he couldn't close his eyes. Pixels appeared above the guy's head. The girls told him not to worry because they had a solution. They stood next to each other, closing their eyes and putting their hands forward, and a glow appeared in front of them. The energy of animals can create a closed space that isolates from noise. The girls began to argue among themselves about which of them would lie down next to the owner. Lin was even a little scared by such serious and negative arguments. Literally a second later, the 3 of them started fighting to get close to their owner. Lin decided to take matters into his own hands. He hugged everyone at once and said that they couldn't behave like this because they were all friends. He decided to suggest to the girls that each one take turns getting 3 hours. The girls clung to the guy, and Lin said that they couldn't quarrel because they were all one family. They went to the outskirts of the military academy, which was the outer part of the forest of fallen heroes. Shu was very upset because she hadn't gotten enough sleep, because Long was snoring so loudly that it made her shake. The fat man hesitated and said that to get to the military academy, you had to go through the forest of fallen heroes. There was a soft cracking sound, and right in the tree, almost at the very top, there was some guy sitting. He watched the boys as they tried to get to the military academy as quickly as possible. The guy transmitted over the earpiece that he had found 3 newcomers, saying that the Straight Sword Squad was nearby and that they could act at any moment. Lin received a notification that the Wave of Malice had been activated. The guy grabbed Shu and Luna by the neck and yelled at them to be careful, dragging them back. A flame appeared right in front of them. They were all quite scared, because it was very unexpected. Through the flames they noticed a huge black paw with long, sharp claws on the ground. A fire panther appeared in front of them. It was level 40. Yu said she heard rumors about the military academy that all new students had to take an entrance test. Lin ran forward and shouted for them to take care of themselves and leave everything else to him. The fire panther, as soon as she saw the boys running away, immediately followed them. The panther jumped over Lin, straight towards Shu and Lun. Looking back, Lin thought that teleportation had been used. The fat man stood in place, spreading his arms, and shouted at the girl to be careful. Lin used his movement skill and appeared in front of the guys. With a sly smile on his face, he said that she wasn't the only one who could teleport. Lin shouted for Ai to use her immense power, and the girl flew forward. She collided right with the panther's head, causing it to lose its balance slightly. They collapsed to the ground, and Lin said that this was too easy an entrance test. Yu said that it was as expected of Brother Han to get them through the military academy's entrance test so easily. Lin said with admiration that if they continued to stick with him, they would definitely not regret it. The guy received another system notification that multiple hostile units had been detected. Lin pushed Lun aside and put his hand up. He screamed loudly for him to be more careful. It was clear from the guy's face that he was a little puzzled because he thought it was all over. He held up a long needle, which shocked the boys. Lin said there was clearly something wrong with this test, and that more attention should be paid to the surroundings. The guy thought about the fact that the wave of anger could not determine the exact location, and that the enemy could really hide his aura. The guy who was watching them was very shocked at how Lin deftly caught it with his bare hands. With a smile on his face, he told himself that compared to him, his techniques were still weak. The guy didn't hesitate and jumped down, straight onto the guys. He flew down and shouted loudly for Lin to try it, hinting at himself flying towards him. Lin, Long, and Shu stood in a tense situation, preparing for another battle. Hearing the unfamiliar voice, they all looked up, even feeling a little afraid. Lin said that it is easy to dodge an open attack, but a hidden one is much more difficult. He used his shield to protect himself and the others. The guy jumped onto a branch and grinned at how fun it was to shoot at a stationary target. The needles flew off the shield one after another, and a loud, unpleasant sound was heard. Lin looked up and said that as long as there was a shield, they didn't have to worry about their lives. He decided to take matters into his own hands and asked Shu and Lun to attract attention to themselves, while he would go around to the side. The guy was outraged that because of the damn turtle, or rather its strong shell, his hidden weapons could not penetrate it. He was offered to try heavy weapons over the radio, but he immediately refused it because it could kill a person. Lin, with a smile on his face, said from behind him that he didn't think this guy was such a kind-hearted person. The guy turned around abruptly and looked at Lin in surprise. He had needles clutched between his fingers. He swung his fist with needles straight at Lin's face, but Lin skillfully intercepted his hand. Lin didn't hesitate, and clenching his fist with all his strength, swung at him. After hitting the guy, he asked him if he really liked to act on the sly. The boy fell from the tree to the ground, and Lin jumped straight after him. Upon landing, he pinned the guy to the ground with his foot, who was already bleeding from the blow. Lin told him to tell him what his purpose was, adding that if he didn't want to talk, he didn't mind sending him down right now. The guy started shouting for him to stop, that everyone was his own and calling Lin Jr. The boy said that he was also a student at the military academy in his 3rd year, and he introduced himself as Li Yantong. Hearing this, Lin stepped back, and almost immediately Shu and Long ran up. Lin was outraged that since he was from the military academy, why did he have to attack them? Yantong said that his needle was actually just a paralysis needle, that at worst it would make them sleep for a while. He added that according to the rules, senior students are responsible for assessing newcomers. Upon admission, each newcomer receives 100 initial points. Yantong also said that if a senior caught a newcomer, he could take away 80 points from him. He said that the points were a kind of internal currency of the academy. The exchange rate of points to Tianlong coins was 1 to 1,000, and if a newbie successfully registers without getting caught, he gets an additional 300 points. Lung couldn't hold back, grabbed the guy by the shirt and swung at him with all his anger, asking if only seniors were allowed to rob newcomers. Yantong said that if the strength is sufficient, newcomers can also hunt seniors, taking away a senior's ID card, which can earn 500 points. Lin thought about it and realized where that wave of anger was coming from. The guy looked angrily at his friends, going over something in his head. Looking at Yantong, he suggested that the fat man and Shu become hunters themselves. He asked the boy if he had any contacts for other elders nearby. Lin said that Yantong was caught by him just now, and according to the academy rules, it was 500 points. The boy thought that if he were to help Lin, that is, a newcomer, intercept others, then he would no longer be able to live normally in the academy. Lin said that he would not let him remain at a loss, and for every senior they eliminated together, he would personally give 50 points. He also added that if he takes on the case, he will not interfere, but the price will not change. Yantong finally agreed, warning that he would not help them fight. He said that every senior student has an identification card, which is used to exchange points. Hearing this, a mischievous smile appeared on Lin's face, and he thought about something. Yantong reluctantly handed his ID card over to Shu, even closing his eyes at that moment. The guy looked at his phone and apologized to Old Man Wang under his breath, hoping that everyone else would understand. Not far away was that same old man Van, literally 50 meters away. Wang Lichang is one of the senior students in the third-year student administration at the military academy, and is eligible to apply for the scholarship. Wang noticed Luna and Shu near the tree, and he thought that the newcomers were resting without the slightest vigilance. Literally a second later, the guy rushed straight at them, shouting that 160 points were his. Taking another step, Van realized that the ground beneath him seemed to have collapsed. He looked at his feet and his face immediately changed. He was very scared. The guy fell with a scream into a decent-sized hole, with Lin and Yantong standing nearby. Lin smiled and told Yantong that it was quite a good job, which the boy agreed with while scratching his head awkwardly. A furious cry came from the pit, asking how Yantong dared to deceive him so vilely, adding that he might not even dream of getting a scholarship this year. Yantong cried out in response that he had already charged him quite a lot for all this time, that every year the stipend was spent on flirting with girls. Lin asked Yantong if the anesthesia was still taking effect on Wang. The guy said that this bastard had body enhancement skills, so the anesthesia worked more slowly, adding that for the next losers, he would increase the dose. Van remained lying in the pit, his arms weakening and his eyes closing one by one. The last thing he heard was Yantong telling Lin that he had noticed those newcomers in the southeast, and that he couldn't handle it alone. After a while, Yantong was jumping with delight that they had taken away another senior's card. With shining eyes, he exclaimed that they were simply the perfect team and got excited. Next, we are shown events in the very depths of the jungle. A young man from the military academy reported to the captain that information had reached him that many units were unable to contact their senior comrades, and that many people had suddenly disappeared. The captain thought for a moment and said that it all looked like there was a real monster in this new recruit group. Yantong communicated with Senior Chen, saying that if he saw any traces of newcomers, he would report them to him first. They walked a little further, and next to the tree sat the same Long and Shu. Chen cried out that he could knock them out with just one move, without putting in any special effort. A general voice notification was received that a special situation had arisen in the southeastern direction, and it was time for everyone to take serious action. Chen wondered if there was anyone among this year's freshmen who was capable of preying on upperclassmen. Yantong suggested that they might have made a mistake, since a newcomer clearly wouldn't be able to defeat the seniors. The moment Senior Chen suggested that they meet the captain, Lin jumped straight down from the tree onto him. Lin immediately ran up to Yantong to ask if he had said anything unnecessary, because he noticed Chen's alertness. Yantong said that this is an incentive scheme for the Academy's seniors. If a large number of them are defeated in a certain area, the Academy allows them to all unite to intercept the newcomers. Lin thought that since they had only sensed something was wrong, it wasn't all that bad, they hadn't been exposed. Lin told the three of them to hide while he went to scout out the area. Yantong threw the elder onto his shoulder, saying that he could handle him, adding that he should be careful because he would meet many capable people. Lin used his skill and instantly took off from the ground, flying forward, saying that he would be back any minute. At this time, Nianwei was running away from the seniors, shouting that there were too many people behind her. The seniors shouted after her not to run away, because the area was full of people who were hunting her. Nianwei was furious because she knew that if she was caught, she would not be able to register. One girl shouted with a smile that there was no point in running away. Intercepting the red target was rewarded with 1,000 points. The girl fired back with the words that she should blame her failure, and she would gladly take her points. As if a smokescreen appeared right in front of Nianwei, she closed her eyes and stopped. She fell to the ground and looked up to see 3 seniors flying towards her. Nianwei shouted at them that she would go all the way. Even if she didn't kill them, she would definitely skin them. 2 more bullets were flying at the girl. She only heard that it would be better for her to obediently just fall asleep. A notification came that the iron bones had been activated and the girl had disappeared from their sight. Lin picked up Nianwei and began to apologize for accidentally dragging her into this. Looking at her, Lin realized that the seniors had put her to sleep using an anesthetic attack. The guy behind them was surprised that Lin was able to escape their attacks unharmed. Lin looked in their direction and said to himself with a smile that he needed to finish all of this as quickly as possible. He used thunder, the powers of Tianhu, causing the seniors to fly in different directions. The guy looked at them with a smile and said that since they were almost exposed, it was time to start the offensive. Lin shared with Long who Nianwei was, saying that she should also be a new recruit arriving at the military academy. The girl came to her senses and did not expect to see Lin in front of her. She said she was surrounded by several seniors, and the last time they saw each other, Lin was only in the second stage. Lin said with a smile that he had actually already passed the fourth stage. Nianwei was shocked by what she heard, and she even froze in place in surprise, not knowing what to say to this. Lun said with a smile that this was his brother, and it couldn't be any other way. Zhu looked at Lin with no less admiration, her hands clasped in front of her face. Yantong also couldn't remain silent and said that Lin was truly a genius. Lin held out a bunch of identification cards in his hand, saying that it would be better to go on the offensive ourselves, starting a reverse hunt. Nianwei was at a loss as to how anyone could even prey on third-year seniors. She thought that all this time in the forest of fallen heroes, she had been choosing a favorable location for her escape, and now she was being offered to hunt for the senior course. Without thinking twice, realizing that she was next to Lin, she of course agreed. Together they came up with a plan. Nianwei would use his tracking skill, and Long and Shu would still act as bait. He told Yantong to gather inside information. Lin looked at everyone again, making sure everyone was ready. He said that they were officially starting their operation. The guy told the captain that a signal from the missing crew member's device had been detected. The captain immediately ordered them to determine his exact location. The senior students went out to search and found Van in the pit, immediately reporting everything to the captain. They realized that he appeared to have been sedated and given a mild electric shock. Van was fine, but they discovered that his ID was missing. The captain was wondering how the freshman knew the exact location of the seniors. As soon as Wang Lichang came to his senses, the captain ordered him to report the attack. Wang said the senior and the freshman conspired to ambush him. The captain told Wang to return to the academy and have a good rest, and left the rest to him. The captain also said that he would teach them a lesson and respond with cunning, using their own plan against them. He ordered the boy to inform the team members from other directions so that they could all gather in one place to teach the newcomers a lesson. In Ye Taiching's office, someone was knocking loudly and anxiously on the boss's door. The guy panicked and started saying that he was having big problems with hunting. He added that it wasn't that seniors were hunting new recruits, but that the hunt was on the seniors. Chief E said that it was great that someone had finally started this. The guy said that this newbie is madly hunting for senior students. At least 20 people have already become his victims. He added that this was the student he had personally accepted, a tamer from Wuzhou City named Lin Han. The guy said that according to his calculations, the points he had earned today, converted into Qianlong heavenly coins, would amount to at least several million. Chief Ye wondered if Lin Han was really developing that quickly. The guy panicked and said that they should definitely intervene as quickly as possible. Chief E said that there was no need to panic, that we should not forget who the leader of this recruitment team was, adding that all they need to do is provide these geniuses with a platform to showcase their talents and give them the right amount of support. Lin and the guys couldn't stop admiring what a great team they were. Yantong decided for himself that he had apparently really made the right choice in joining Lin. A message arrived on Yantong's phone that, to encourage fair competition, a reward was being announced. Anyone who managed to catch the red target would receive 10,000 points. Yantong cried out in panic that Lin's data had been exposed. Lin said that if we assume that the area where they are now has already aroused the wariness of the seniors, then most likely there are many people lurking ahead. He said it was time to change strategy and start a guerrilla war. Lin told Nianwei to use her abilities, pointing his finger forward. A few seconds later, Nianwei successfully located a new target. Nianwei said to Lin that if they went further, there were almost 50 people in ambush ahead. She added that the aura of these people was completely different from that of those they attacked yesterday. Lin suggested that once you lost your ID card, you were no longer eligible to participate in the rookie hunt. Yantong said that according to the rules, the hunt should end if the operation commander loses the right to participate. But in the history of the military academy, this had never happened. Lin liked what Yantong told him and said that it was time to play big right away. One of the seniors was observing the situation and noticed a newbie whom he was told to eliminate, even if he was not a red target. The guy didn't wait another minute and jumped straight down to the newcomer. Looking into his eyes, he said that he should get some sleep, and when he woke up, he would already be at the military academy. The newcomer was seriously scared, put his hands forward and turned away from the senior student, shouting at him not to dare approach him. The elder didn't have time to do anything because Lin appeared out of nowhere behind him. As soon as the eldest fell to the ground, the rest of the boys ran to that spot. The newcomer stood in panic, unable to move, and with a shaking voice he asked who they all were. Lin extended his hand and said that they were just a group of freshmen passing by. Since the newcomer still didn't understand what was happening, Lin tried to explain everything to him as clearly as possible. Of course, he couldn't offer him to take part in the hunt for senior students, saying that he would receive 10% of the spoils. The boy agreed to the offer with a smile, but told him to forget about the profit. The screams of the senior officer they had eliminated could be heard through the earpiece. Lin raised the earpiece with the microphone to his face and introduced himself, adding that their friend would not come to for some time. The guy on the other end of the line started telling him that Lin was already surrounded, and if he returned the IDs, they would think about letting him go. Lin replied with a laugh that he would never believe such nonsense. He added that they should not rush, that they would meet again, and asked them not to forget to take their identification card. The captain asked anxiously and angrily if they had been able to determine their location yet. The elder said that judging by the signal on the headphones, they found out where Lin was now. The captain said with an evil look that no matter what he had planned, all his actions were useless in front of the absolute power. The boys pulled the eldest one aside and, like everyone else, took his identification card. Yantong looked at his phone and said that they had all become really famous. Long and Shu were only glad that Lin had not yet entered the military academy, but had already become a celebrity in the military academy. Lin said that since the opponent wanted to play, he would naturally accept the challenge, taking all the ID cards for himself. Chief Ye said that when faced with an enemy whose numbers were many times greater than his own, Lin would suddenly strike first, adding that the youth will surpass them all in time. The guy said that judging by their placement, all the green dots, representing newcomers, are surrounded by red dots, representing seniors. He added that orange dots had also appeared, which meant that the senior captain was also near Lin Han. Chief Ye looked at the screen sullenly, and he himself was already curious about what Lin was capable of. Nianwei, standing on the tree, said she felt a large number of seniors approaching. Lin said with a smile that the fish had bitten, and now everything depends on Ting and the others, adding that while they were stalling for time, he would be able to deal with the captain and put an end to this hunt. They noticed that someone was walking towards the boys, after which they all fell silent and stared intently below. Lun called out to the elders to see if they had forgotten to take their identification cards. Lin used a skill that could change a person's appearance, and Lin was Liu Sui, the newcomer. The seniors started shouting that they would immediately teach Lin Han how to properly address his elders. They immediately rushed at them, and behind them stood the captain of the senior students. When the elders were already very close, Lin activated a huge force which stopped them in an instant. They were surrounded by smoke, and from the strong impact they all fell to the ground. This power was activated by Ai, who said that the rest of the work was for Tianhu. Tianhu immediately reacted and activated Thunderstorm, but a weaker version of it. She was serious and pointed her hands towards her elders. The senior students screamed from such power, not knowing where to go or what to do. Tianhu, as soon as she noticed that they were all as if paralyzed, chuckled. At that moment, I ran up to them and collected their identification cards. She looked at the cards and said that the owner would definitely be happy with such a number of points. The guy next to the captain screamed that they had fallen into their trap. Lu Sui shouted to Lin that now was the moment for him to act. Lin decided that it would be better to finish them off with one blow, to completely destroy both of them. The guy activated the skill, enhancing his hearing by 200%, and warned the captain that there was an attack from behind. The captain was no slouch and activated the Diamond Ice Fist. Lin thought that this was a powerful force, no weaker than the 4th stage Black Snake King. Lin jumped back and fixed his gaze on the captain. He said that in theory he shouldn't have had a single flaw. The elder said that he still needed to practice, adding that as long as his movements caused currents of air, he could not escape his listening skills. The captain said that he didn't expect Lin to dare to attack him, a 5-ranker, adding that his strength was not bad, but she still lacked skill. Lin said indignantly that the fight was still not over. He looked to the side at the captain's request and saw his friends frozen. Fatty Lun froze with his mouth open, looking very scared. Nianwei and the elder too. Lin was shocked by what he saw and did not understand what to do next. He was in a panic, realizing that all his boys had fallen into the elder's trap. The captain said with a smile that he was the only one left, offering him a choice to abandon his comrades and run away, but he did not have time to voice the second option. He paused briefly, looked at Lin with burning eyes, and offered to challenge him to a fight. Lin was determined to go all the way, clenching his fists and saying it was worth a try. The captain was surprised that Lin did not run away, but on the contrary, challenged him to a fight. Lin stood in his stance without moving, and did not take his eyes off the captain. The elder announced that the broadcast of the battle between the captain and Lin on the forum had begun. The captain, looking at Lin, said that he should let the elder teach him his first lesson at the military academy. The captain activated the Icefall Fist skill and said that Lin should not cry later. He rushed straight at him, his eyes full of fury and determination. Lin was shocked by his speed, thinking that this was the power of the 5th degree. The guy successfully defended the blow, applying enormous force. Lin received a notification that his agility attribute had been temporarily reduced by 300 points. He realized it was the ice crystals that were slowing his movements. The captain moved his hand aside, looking at the guy with a smile. He said it was good that his ice crystals could stick to a target, slowing down its speed, but his power didn't stop there. Lin received a new notification that his life contract skill had been frozen. He looked at his leg, which in an instant began to become covered in ice. A few more seconds and he was already shoulder-deep in ice, unable to move. The elder told the captain that using spiritual energy destruction against a newcomer would be too much, and that it could result in him spending 2 weeks in the hospital. To which the captain replied that Lin had disgraced the entire 3rd year, and that if he was not properly punished today, the other newcomers would follow his example and stop respecting their elders. Approaching Lin, he said that if he publicly apologized to everyone and cleaned the school building for the whole year, he might cancel the skill and let him go. The captain put his hand on his shoulder and told him to apologize to his superiors right now on camera. In Chief Ye's office, the guy said that the show had come to an end, that Captain Chi Tian had pulled out his trump card. He added that the captain had already reached the 5th stage, while Lin Han, at best, was only the 3rd. Chief Ye said that according to the initial data, Lin Han had recently broken through to the 4th stage, and his 3rd beast had a fire attribute, which was just right to restrain Chi Tian. The boy was shocked by what he heard. He didn't understand how Lin could have already reached the 4th stage at such an age. The boss folded his arms and said with a smile that he was sure the most interesting part was just beginning. Lin waited for a while and then gathered his strength and used the power of fire. His fist was surrounded by flames. With a stream of thoughts and strength, he managed to lift the captain off the ground, which he certainly did not expect. Lin tried his best. The ice began to crack and fall in pieces to the ground. Chi Tian looked at the guy from above and couldn't believe that he managed to do this. He thought it was impossible. After gathering his thoughts, Chi Tian overcame Lin Han's strength and landed. He was at a loss as to how he had managed to break through his destruction of spiritual concentration. Lin told him with a smile that many things were still impossible and activated the skill copy skill. He winked at him slyly and shouted that it was now his turn to strike. Lin used the copied Phoenix Flame skill to attack Chi Tian. The captain reacted instantly and a huge ice wall appeared in front of him, which he had high hopes that it would hold up, but it began to crack. Chi Tian was furious and slightly panicked, still not understanding how the newbie could do this. It was like an explosion. There was a lot of smoke. Ice fragments were flying in all directions and flames were flying out. From the middle of the smoke, the captain jumped out shouting that this was far from all. Chi Tian activated the diamond ice fist, but Lin didn't even blink. The boy skillfully dodged every swing of the captain. Chi Tian was furious that he couldn't hit it no matter how hard he tried. Lin was seriously angered by these attempts, and he clenched his fist so hard that the flames around him began to blaze even more intensely. He screamed loudly and ran forward. He did not take his eyes off the captain and ran straight towards him. Thanks to his agility and strength, he managed to land a blow on Chi Tian that knocked the captain off his feet. He flew at breakneck speed and with a barely audible cry into the stones. Lin didn't leave it at that and immediately pressed him even harder against the rocks with his foot. He looked down at him and said angrily that in this match the victory was clearly his. The senior students nearby watched everything that was happening and were horrified. Lin slowly turned to them and asked if anyone else wanted to challenge him to a fight. The boys immediately hesitated and panicked, saying that he had won the hunting tournament. They handed over their identification cards, telling him to take them quickly and let their captain go. Lin reached out to him with his hand and grabbed his clothes tightly. Without any regret and realizing that this was the captain of the military academy, the boy threw Chi Tian into the hands of one of the elders. The guy said with a smile that they would see each other another time, adding at the end that they were retreating. Lin exhaled and said with a laugh that it was finally all over. The guy in the boss's office was shocked that Lin Han had amazing fighting skills. Pointing to the screen where the fiery phoenix was, he said that its appearance was just like that of the legendary phoenix. The captain, after thinking, said that even among the best students of the academy, few could compete with him. The guy said that the boss was as insightful as always, recruiting such talent at the very beginning. Chief Ye said that their Heavenly Dragon Empire hadn't seen such a powerful beast tamer for a long time. The guy asked him if he should include Lin Han on that list. The chief ordered him to begin surveillance with everyone else. Lin and the guys arrived at the military academy, or more precisely, at the registration point for new students. The guy activated the perception distortion skill because the girls were still fighting among themselves over who would stand next to him. He looked back and realized that this skill was quite useful, because not only could others not see the true form of the beasts, but they could not hear their voices either. After completing the task, a notification came that Lin could choose one of 2 rewards. He was given a choice between distortion of perception or growth of experience. Lin looked at his beasts and realized that with the distortion, they would no longer have to hide. The radius of the perception distortion is 100 meters from the owner, and it ignores all reconnaissance skills, regardless of level. Yantong said that this was the end of the registration, adding that if anything happened, he could always contact him. The other students began to stare at Lin, saying that he was the same one who had destroyed the entire 3rd year. Yantong advised him to go to the dormitory quickly, because if a crowd gathered, it would be difficult to get out. They all went to the hostel together under the guidance of the elder. It looked quite large and decent looking. Lin was glad that Yantong went with them, because he managed to create a distraction for the boys to go inside. All the way, Lun wondered who would live with them in the same room. There was a guy named Sun Tianqi in the room, and the guys greeted him. Sun screamed when he looked at Lin and panicked, even crouching slightly. He ran up to him and asked if he was really the legendary Lin Han. Sun showed him the phone, which had a military academy forum open, where he was the only one talking about him. Seeing this, Lin even became a little confused and felt uneasy. Lun ran up to him and exclaimed with admiration that Lin had truly become a celebrity. Lin thought that fame was as burdensome to a person as obesity is to a pig, and he was afraid that he would be targeted in all the academy's activities. Night had fallen. Everyone had already gone to bed, but Luna's loud snoring could be heard in the room. Lun did not respond to any requests to simply shut up. Lin decided that the next time the system gave him the opportunity to choose a reward, he would definitely choose something that could drown out his hearing. As if by snapping his fingers, girls appeared and rushed into his arms. I was outraged that it had already been 9 hours and 48 seconds since she had seen her master. Lin said that before there were just strangers nearby, so he didn't let them out, promising that now he would give them more freedom. Tianhu said anxiously that without him around, her energy was becoming unstable, adding that she envies Ai, that she knows how to maintain a stable state and simply count the days until your return. Xiao cried out that she was still the most obedient and harmless, that she would not quarrel with her sisters. Lin hugged everyone at once and said that all 3 of them were his favorite girls. Looking at Luna, who continued to snore loudly, he rolled his eyes and sighed heavily. She suggested that the sisters use the old method and create a closed space together. Lin almost burst into tears from happiness that he could finally rest. The guy activated a distortion of perception so that no one could see or hear anything. In the morning, they all went to the square for first-year students of the military academy. Lin told Yantong that it was much hotter here than in Wuzhou City, but one could get used to it. Yantong said that unlike academies like Qingbei, the military academy is directly subordinate to the military department and is independent of the Ministry of Education. He added that training here is based on a 4-person team system. He said that it is very important to choose the right teammates here. After the squad is formed, they will be distributed among classes so that all members of one team study together. Yantong did not forget to mention the rewards that are given to the captain for distribution. Nianwei was worried that she would only get in the way, but Lin immediately reassured her, saying that he was even afraid that she would not want to join their team. Xu, Long, and Lin extended their hands to her, and Lin said that the team of 4 would be incomplete without her. Nianwei happily said that she would do everything to keep up with them. Yantong said that they would register the team later, but for now they could come up with a name, and soon after the class assignments, there would be a freshman meeting. In a meeting, usually one team is selected from each of the 4 classes, and 2 rounds of battles take place between them. Lin turned to the boys and said that they had to win the championship title at the freshman reunion. He suggested calling their team the Night Watch, because they would be guarding the lights of this city. Xu asked Lin to take care of them in the future as captain. As they approached the military academy to register the team, they noticed a crowd of people. Lun was shocked by the number of people and was afraid that someone would take their name for themselves. The military academy's instructor approached Lin and introduced himself as Qing Hai. The mentor said that Chief Yi wanted to talk to him and asked if it was a good time for him to come over. Lin looked at him with a smirk, saying that it was probably because of the hunting tournament. The guy smiled and said that he could go there right now. Qing Hai asked Lin if it was true that he was now a 4th-degree beast tamer. He added that reaching the 4th level in less than half a month after awakening was rare, even for descendants of noble clans. Qing Hai asked Lin to tell him about his very unusual beasts and activated the information scan. But Lin's perception distortion skill was still active, which prevented him from being scanned. Lin realized that if anyone found out that 3 of the 10 ancient beasts that were thought to be extinct were near him, there would be big trouble. The guy laughed and said that his animals were the most ordinary, that there was nothing unusual about them. Qing Hai received a notification that the information scan could not identify the data and the skill activation failed. The mentor was shocked by this. He saw something like this for the first time and realized that Lin really had some kind of secret. He asked Lin if he could take a look, suspecting that such an animal might be a mutant. Lin realized that Master Qing was becoming suspicious, and that he might become a problem. The boss opened the door indignantly and told Lin to come in immediately because he needed to talk to him. He said that his tamed beasts were very strong, but for now it did not harm the interests of the Empire, and the military academy would not interfere too much in his affairs. The boss asked Lin if he remembered how many seniors he had beaten in hunting competitions. Lin hesitated slightly and guessed that there were 88 of them. The guy said that he first wants to get his points and then see what he spends them on depending on the situation. The boss said that the academy would not be able to give him the full amount of points at once. He added that he would try to satisfy his request if he needed any items. Lin, upset, said that he agreed to the academy's conditions, but he did not know what he might need. The chief said that within his capabilities, he could provide a beast of any rank he could choose, adding that all his training expenses would be fully covered, and that he would also take care of the animal's food. Lin, of course, agreed to this proposal. Lin thought about how the reserves in the beast's space were almost exhausted, especially considering Ai's monstrous appetite. The boss also said that he would try to make up for the remaining points, and that he could also get additional materials from Qinghai to prepare for the entrance tournament. He himself understood that this time the academy was at fault, and compensation had to be made so that the guys from Qingbei wouldn't ridicule them. As soon as Lin left the office and walked a short distance, Qinghai was already standing near the door. Qinghai knocked on Chief Ye's door and said that he wanted to talk to him. Adjusting his glasses, he said that he wanted to apply to become Lin Han's homeroom teacher. The boss was a little perplexed because Qinghai had not accepted new students for many years. Qinghai said that Lin is such an outstanding rookie that he is confident that he can develop even better under his guidance. The boss went to meet him and said that he would be the one to lead the newcomer class in which Lin Han was studying. Qinghai thanked Chief Ye and immediately headed out. He kept thinking in his head that he would keep an eye on this guy until the secret of his animals came out. By this time, the guys had already stood in line and registered their team. Lun saw Lin and cried out that they had already received their squad's badges. The boy showed his phone screen that he had just joined the class chat. Nianwei told Lin to remember to introduce himself in the chat, as everyone does. Long was a little upset that Lin Han already had a ton of friend requests, but he didn't have any. Qinghai wrote in the chat that he was their class teacher, and asked everyone to gather at the Square of Valor to begin the competition for the post of class monitor. After reading these messages, Lin was shocked. He understood that this would not lead to anything good. Leaving aside their various thoughts, they went to the Square of Valor. Lin decided that he needed to be more careful in his actions and words. Qinghai shouted that in 5 seconds, the two teams would line up in a row, and the entire class would line up in a square. And if they were late, the entire class would run 10 kilometers. The class was shocked that they were given only 5 seconds. They quickly all lined up and Qinghai said it was time to get down to business. He said that the process of electing a class president is very simple. It is a competition of strength. The one who comes first will become the 4th grade class president. Long immediately looked at Lin Han, to which the boy replied that he was not interested in the position of headman. Qinghai said that he was starting the countdown, and if a headman was not chosen before the sand in the hourglass ran out, then everyone would do 500 squatting jumps. The mentor added with a smile that the class monitor receives an additional 100 points every month. The boys from the class started shouting that they would each take the post of class monitor. Lin was a little disappointed to realize that fame had already brought a few small troubles. He noticed sidelong and angry glances at himself, as if he were their enemy. Everyone rushed at him, saying that with him they had no chance of winning. The guys decided to deal with Lin Han first, and then honestly choose a headman. Lin used his shield and told his team to retreat, that he would handle it himself. One of the guys shouted out that no matter how strong he was, there were a lot of them, and they could just wear him out. The boys used different skills, a water ball, an ice spike, and much more. Lin stood up for himself as best he could, trying to hold back his persistent classmates. When the boys realized that nothing at all had happened to him, they were shocked, not understanding how this was possible. Lin said with a smile that since they were finished, it was his turn. He used a weak level of his power, and the guys began to fly in different directions, shouting that they surrendered. Qinghai stood rooted to the spot, realizing that he had dealt with everyone without even summoning his beasts. The mentor, walking towards Lin, said that their team had won and asked if they had decided who would be the class monitor. Long said that the 3 of them were not suitable, adding that he would gladly accept Lin Han as the headman. Qinghai said that being a class leader is not easy, and that the academy's new recruits meeting will be held soon. He added that all he needed was for him to lead the entire 4th grade to victory. Lin looked at his class teacher with a smile and said that he would take it upon himself. Qinghai said that Lin would have to pay for the repairs to the site because they had destroyed half of it. Lin thought for a moment and said that he would pay with points, which he had plenty of now. As he left, the teacher reflected on the fact that Lin's abilities were indeed strong. But a real battle was not just a single duel. They all went to the parade ground of the military academy. Yu suggested to Lin that this year they send only him to the tournament. I was also shocked by the number of people and asked them to come out and watch too. Xiao hugged her owner and said that she really wanted to fight too. But at this moment, Lin Han received a notification that a wave of malice had been activated. Lin wondered why the newcomers in the course might harbor hostility towards him. One of the guys came forward and asked if this was the same overrated fool and asked if he knew who he was. Lin said he had never heard of the guy and asked if he was famous. The guy smiled slyly and said that he was a man from the Zhao clan. Lin said that they had never heard of anything like this, that he was acting so arrogantly, that the academy belonged to his family. The boy shouted out that his third-grade class would take first place in this big competition. He added that he had heard that Lin had distinguished himself in the novice hunting competition, and that sooner or later they would have to find out which of them was stronger. Lin thought about what was said, and realized that in the early stages, the baby beasts were even stronger than the beast tamer. The guy said that if he was scared, it would be better for him to go home. Lun and two other guys from the class stood up for Lin, saying that the fourth grade wasn't afraid of them. Lin tried to calm his animals, because they were also furious at such words. Lin extended his hand to the guy and said that he accepted his challenge, and asked what they would bet on. The guy said that whoever loses will kneel, bow 3 times, and then shout Grandpa 3 times. Lin said that since he himself was asking to become his grandson, he agreed. The boy was very indignant and cried out in rage, how dare he call him grandson? He shouted in a tone that begged for it, clenching his fist with all his might and rushing towards Lin Han. Lin looked away with a smile, thinking in his head that this guy was a complete idiot. Chief E nearby noticed the strong fluctuation in skill and decided to move closer. The boy flew towards Lin Han like a bird, clenching his teeth in anger. Chief E grabbed the guy by the arm and shouted for everyone to stop. He also ordered Lin Han to stop using his skill. Lin, without any indignation, but on the contrary, with a smile, said that he had already stopped. Chief Ye told the teachers to keep an eye on their students so that they don't get into trouble. Qinghai told them to stop standing like a pillar and return to their places. The guy was thinking that when he was completely defeated in a big competition, he would definitely trample him underfoot. Lin understood from the notification that Zhao Feng was very unhappy. Qinghai thought about the consequences if Chief Ye hadn't come. Qinghai began to say that this competition would be held under rules different from the previous ones. This competition will not be held with preformed squads. All participants will be assigned to new teams. Qinghai said that these skills are vital on the battlefield when they encounter unexpected situations. Lin thought with a smile that it was not for nothing that this military academy existed. Even the testing method was so unexpected. A vortex of some kind appeared, with a bright blue glow. Qinghai said that he would explain the rules of the competition in detail later. He said that out of 4 classes, each class would field 3 randomly regrouped teams of 4. The 2 teams that will compete will have individual duels in the arena, with one person being able to defend the arena no more than twice in a row, and the team that first eliminates all of the enemy's members from the battle wins. Qinghai added that one MVP will be selected after the competition. The MVP will be determined by a vote of the Academy's leadership, based on the overall performance. He made it clear to them that they only needed to be wary of the 3rd class, led by Zhao Feng. Long was overjoyed when he realized that he and Lin Han were in the same group. Lin glanced at the chat and realized that, overall, the comrades he had picked out were also quite good. The girl turned to her headman, as if she was puzzled by something. In their group was Lu Wangqiu, who had the profession of a healer, and Zhang Zhen, who had the profession of a knight of the shield and sword. Half an hour later, the freshmen's meeting began, and Lun pointed to the stage where the drawing of lots had already begun. Chief E announced that the 1st class was against the 4th, and the 2nd against the 3rd. Zhao Feng said that he was sorry that he couldn't knock him out right away, but they would meet sooner or later. He understood that Lin Han was very selenious, but the rules only allowed him to participate twice. The boss raised his hand and announced that the meeting was officially beginning. The lights came on in the hall right above the ring. The hall was quite large. The judge announced the 1st group, the 1st and 4th grades, and asked the members of the 1st team to enter the arena. The one who stepped into the arena was Zhang Yun, a 3rd-stage elite barbarian warrior of impressive size. Lin looked at his team and said that he would be the first to win and teach the 1st grade a lesson at the same time. Long stood in front of Lin Han and asked him to let him test his opponent's capabilities first. He turned to him with a more serious expression and said that he could trust him. Long and Zhang Yun were already standing in the arena, and it was clear from their expressions that both were quite confident in themselves. Long introduced himself to the enemy as a 3rd-rank berserker warrior. He said that Zhang was no match for him. The referee shouted that the fight had begun, and the hall fell into deep silence. Zhang shouted for Long to catch his hammer blow, but the boy deftly dodged it. Lin thought that they were both close combat fighters, but Zhang Yong had the advantage in strength. Lun flew at the guy, shouting for him to catch his sword blow. At that moment, Zhang Yong launched his hammer and shouted something unintelligible. There was a loud ringing sound as the sword and hammer hit each other. Lun didn't expect this guy to be so strong, as he barely lost his balance. He became even more angry, and decided that since force wasn't working, he would have to change tactics. Lun launched several more swords towards him using his skill. Zhang Yong was even a little scared, but he managed to dodge. Lin knew that if things went on like this, The fat man might wait until his opponent ran out of strength to win. Jang Yun was furious and activated the entangling chain skill. The moon surrounded the whole body with chains. He shouted that he felt bad. But Jang Yun only tightened the chain around the boy more and more. The team began to worry greatly about Lun. But Lin understood that the fat man had another trump card. The guy got angry, clenched his fist and swung it well. He struck Luna straight in the chest, shouting at him to drop the knife. Jang focused his forces on one point and Long flew into the arena fence. As he hit the floor, blood began to flow from his mouth. Liu from the team called on the referee to stop the fight immediately. Lung, barely getting up, said that he could still fight and asked Lin to believe in him. It was the first time Lin had seen the fat man take something so seriously. Lin said loudly that the whole team believed in him and they would not give up. Jang, swinging his hammer, said that Long had been talking so much from the start that he wondered how strong he was. He added that in his place he would have given up immediately, because being beaten in front of so many people would be a disgrace. Lin tried to calm Liu down, saying that he knew what the fat man was up to. He was going to use that skill. Lun began to laugh loudly and activated the Berserker Heart skill. This skill constantly consumes a large amount of stamina to enhance one's own strength and speed. Long swung his sword wide and hit Zhang straight in the face. Zhang Yong flew a fair distance away from the fat man with a wild cry of pain. From the overflow of emotions and strength inside, Lun even began to shake slightly. Zhang Yong groaned and tried to say something, but he couldn't understand how this was even possible. Lin said that this skill is the fat man's trump card. The more severe the injuries, the more potential he can release. Raising his sword, Long asked Zhang Yong if it was fun for him to hit him. Zhang cried out in fear, not feeling any fun at all, and Long activated his Berserker Heart again. The guy ran at him with a sword, shouting that it was his turn. Zhang looked at him and panicked even more. Lun stopped the sword near the guy's head, and he closed his eyes in fear and simply screamed. Zhang asked Lun excitedly why he had stopped and why he was no longer attacking. Lun looked at him angrily and said that this was no longer necessary, since the outcome had already been decided. Zhang shouted loudly with his head down that he had lost. The judge announced that in the first group, in the first match, the 4th grade won. Zhao Fong gritted his teeth and said that he was just lucky. Lin said proudly that it was great, that although it was a bit risky, this round was won beautifully. Lun put his hand on his chest and realized that he was so tired that it was hard to breathe. Zhang said that next time he will not make the same mistake. The first-class headman Zhao Tianchen, with the profession of a fire mage, entered the arena. Lun stood in front of him and said that he was already interested in seeing what he was capable of. Lin thought that if he was not mistaken, the fire mage had a skill that was especially strong against melee fighters. Lung realized that his stamina was running out and immediately activated his Berserker Heart. Zhao Tianchen, seeing Lun running towards him, activated the Fire Ring of Rejection skill, which absorbs the incoming attack and reflects it back at the enemy. And so it happened. All the forces directed at Zhao returned to the moon. Lun screamed in pain and confusion about what had happened. Lin realized that against such a skill, it would be almost impossible for the fat man to get close. Zhao Tianchen spread his hands and told Long to give up, since he was no match for him. Long wiped away the blood and said that he would only surrender when Zhao kneeled. The guy was furious at these words and called Luna a stubborn fool. Lun dodged the attack as best he could. Lin, looking at everything that was happening, thought that the fat man was already at his limit. Without the Berserker's Heart, the fat man won't be able to dodge fireballs, and with it, his stamina will quickly deplete. Zhao cried out, wondering if he was still not going to give up. In just a second, he directed a huge fireball and shouted for him to try it. Lun looked at the ball flying straight at him and didn't understand what to do. The guy realized that this skill was much stronger than he thought. Zhao Feng was glad that thanks to such a blow, Long would have to spend at least half a month in the hospital. Yun screamed at him to give in quickly. It was clear how worried she was. Lin couldn't just stand there and stepped in to stand up for his friend. Turning to the fat man, he said that he had already done all he could. Lin Han introduced himself to his opponent and asked for a duel. Zhao Tianchen clenched his fists and did not reply, waiting for a pause. Zhao said he studied the recording of his performance at the novice hunt, and all his techniques are in the palm of his hand. Lin put away his sword, which angered his opponent even more, and he said that Lin would pay for his arrogance. Lin saw that a phoenix feather had appeared in Zhao's hand, and he said with a smile that one must know how to use one. Zhao used the same fireball. He was very serious. Zhao Feng said that this chief was really difficult, that Lin Han did not have a beast with ice abilities. Zhao flew towards Lin Han with incredible speed, directing a fireball towards him. A blue-green glow appeared around Lin Han. Lin activated the Heavenly Horned Ant's Iron Bone skill. The guy looked at his opponent with indignation and asked if he was finished yet. Zhao was furious, not understanding how he managed to reflect his fireball with just his body strength. The onlookers were shocked, saying that he was stronger than even a warrior. Zhao Feng was furious, He decided that once his tamed beast was taken away, he would have nothing to boast about. The enemy launched a new wave of attack, saying that he definitely could not repel this. Yun became nervous because Zhao's skill was really very strong. Lin activated the Eagle Eye skill and said that it was very slow, after which he immediately activated the copied fast movement skill. He rushed towards the enemy at breakneck speed. Zhao, seeing this, activated the Fire Ring rejection skill, hoping to push Lin Han away. Zhao Feng was worried because their main attacks were close combat. Lin Han once again activated the copied Iron Bone skill to defend against the attack. He appeared through the flames to his opponent, saying that it was a good blow, but it wouldn't stop him either. Lin, seeing Zhao's shocked expression, said that he would go on the attack. Zhao cried out in rage that there was no point in rejoicing prematurely, since it was still unknown who would win. There was a big explosion in the arena, and for several minutes nothing was visible at all. Zhao didn't understand where Lin had gone and thought that he had knocked him out of the arena. Lin found himself right behind his opponent and asked where he was looking. These words made Zhao angry because he thought he had beaten him. Lin, without thinking twice, activated the Wings of Lightning skill and rushed at the enemy. Lin Han's fist was millimeters away from Zhao's face, and he closed his eyes in fear. Everyone who watched them was shocked by how fast and strong Lin was. Lin cried out that the winner was already clear, and if he did not want to be completely disgraced, then he should surrender. There were a lot of holes and smoke in the hall from such a strong explosion. Zhao was horrified that the entire hall exploded. He did not understand where such a terrifying force came from. The guy realized that his strength was running out and fell to his knees with a crash. Zhao said hesitantly and barely audibly that Lin Han had won. Some of the spectators screamed with joy, while others were very indignant. One of the guys was terrified, not understanding whether they would even be able to win. Zhao Feng was glad that he could take Lin's beast back. Lin looked to the side and noticed Zhao Feng and thought for a moment. He looked around and asked if anyone else would fight. A deep silence filled the hall. Not a single sound was heard. Hearing this, Zhao Feng licked his lips, realizing that this was his special chance to take away all of Lin Han's strength. Lin Han was curious about what other evil plans this Zhao Feng was planning. The guy's thoughts were interrupted by one of the guys. He ran into the arena screaming. He started shouting at Lin not to get cocky, and that he would be the one to defeat him. Lin activated the copied Thunderstorm skill, and said that he was too weak, and there was no point in wasting time here. The guy clearly didn't like these words, and he rushed at Lin Han in a rage. Lin raised her hand up and lightning flashed in different directions. He shouted that he would not repeat it anymore, and it was time for him to leave. Lightning struck next to the guy, and he began to scream out of fear that he surrendered. The audience was shocked by what they had just seen, not understanding how this was possible. Everyone started running in different directions with screams. They were seriously scared. Zhao Feng and his friend stood rooted to the spot, growing increasingly angry at Lin Han. A man in the crowd shouted that Lin had intentionally caused the injury, and he demanded that the judge disqualify him from the competition. Lin said that his skill attacks randomly, and they were just unlucky, or they did something that would cause them to be punished by the heavens. The judge cried out that it was the Academy's fault, because they didn't think that a newcomer would be able to break through the protective barrier. He added that the competition is currently temporarily suspended, because the arena needs to be restored and security strengthened. Zhao Feng cried out that he did not agree, and was filing a complaint. The judge said that Zhao could complain to Ye's boss, but if he interfered with the competition again, he would immediately disqualify him from participating. Zhao told himself that he would make Lin Han pay dearly for today's humiliation. Lin spoke to the boys and asked them who would dare to go next. Yun said that the only one left in the first class was Lin Yue. She, like Yun, is a support class. Lin told Lun that sometimes girls fight harder than boys. The girls grabbed each other by the hair and began to pull with all their strength, without sparing. Lin Yue broke away and walked back with her head down. The girl screamed that she was the only one left in the first grade and that she had to win this fight. Lin Yue rushed towards Yun and shouted for her to prepare to attack. She lifted Yun above the arena, spending a lot of strength to do so. Blood spurted from the girl's mouth. She screamed in pain, but held on as best she could. Lin noticed that Lin Yue was already at her limit, and Yun still had some trump cards. Lin Yue leaned her hands on her legs and tried to catch her breath. She realized that she still couldn't defeat her with this blow, not understanding what to do next, because her strength was running out. Yun activated a healing skill that heals the target's wounds, and the effectiveness depends on the level of spiritual energy. Lin Yue flew straight towards her, her eyes filled with anger. The girl said with a smile that she had put a lot of skill into that blow, and that she no longer had the strength. Lin Yue asked indignantly what this meant and was hit. The judge announced that the 4th grade team won, thanks to the girl's efforts. Lun was overjoyed that their team had just won. Nianwei said that it was all thanks to Lin Han that the first-class elite fighters were focused on their match, and the rest of the opponents were not worth paying attention to. The judge announced that the 2nd class had surrendered, and that the third class would face the fourth class in the finals. He added that the finals will begin in 24 hours and all participants should prepare well. Zhao Feng decided that he couldn't just let them leave the arena. Lin decided that he could do whatever he wanted, since they would still accept the challenge. Zhao cried out that Lin Han had seriously damaged his hair, and he would not get away with it. Lin reiterated that it was an accident, and the judge had already made his decision, adding that if he disagreed, he should complain to the judge. Zhao activated the Ice Wolf skill. It looked quite impressive in size. He cried out that he didn't care about the judges, that it was Lin who had disgraced him in front of everyone. The boys were a little scared when they saw the wolf, but not Lin Han. Lin stared at Zhao and thought that this was his trump card. Zhao mockingly said that if he knew how to behave, then he just needed to stand up and repent on his knees before him and shave his head. Lun cried out that academy rules prohibited students from fighting outside of competition. Jay responded by saying that he had never been afraid of anything since childhood, and reiterated that the Zhao family stood behind him. Lun shouted to him that if he wanted to touch Lin, he would have to go through him first. Lin put his hand on the fat man's shoulder and told him not to get so excited. Zhao laughed, because he knew that the third level of the Luna stage was no match for his 49th level beast. Lun asked Lin to be careful, saying that this guy was clearly up to no good. Zhao cried out that today he would make him understand who the real number one among the newcomers was here. Lin activated his listening skill and heard some footsteps, thinking it was Qinhai's mentor. Qinhai shouted for them to stop immediately, as private duels were prohibited in the military academy. Zhao Feng and Li Wei immediately recalled their beasts upon seeing their mentor. Li Wei cried out that Lin wanted to kill them, that he had deliberately surrounded them and not allowed them to escape. The guys, including Lin, heard this and were very shocked by such a lie. Lin thought that he had never seen such shameless people before. Zhao Feng also did not stand aside and began to confirm all of his friend's words. The third-grade teacher Wei said that he would definitely report this incident to Leader Ye. Teacher Wei pointed his finger at Lin Han and said that he should be expelled immediately. Qinhai immediately stood up for Lin, saying that he would never allow him to be expelled. Zhao Feng cried out that he shouldn't be given any leeway just because he was first. Even the judge was covering for him. He added that he demanded a fair fight with Lin Han, and that the final venue should not be here, but on the Grey Wind Plateau. Lun cried out that he did not dare lie so shamelessly in front of everyone. Lin thought that if he was not mistaken, there were packs of mountain wolves and bats with wind blades living there. Zhao Feng understood that he had trained ice wolves since childhood, knew their habits well, and he had a way to prevent the wolves on the Grey Wind Plateau from attacking him. Suddenly, Chief Yi appeared and aggressively asked why they were all gathered there. Teacher Wei said that a student from Teacher Qing's class had just tried to kill Zhao Feng. Lun immediately shouted back that it was a lie, because he was the one who started the fight. Chief Ye turned to Mentor Qing and asked him what really happened. Qing decided to tell everything in such a way that only the boss could hear it and no one else, so that no one would interrupt him, and he could convey everything he wanted. The boss said that he had more or less figured it out, and both sides had their own truth. He added that competition leads to progress, and he agrees to move the final to the Grey Wind Plateau. But he will also change the rules of the final slightly. The boss said that at the first stage, the captains of each team will independently lead their teams to the competition site. Lin realized that judging by Zhao Feng's face, he was plotting something cunning again. Chief Yi announced that the competition would take place the following day as planned. The fourth grade went to the first-year training ground. Lin said that they were all fourth-class elites, and if they lost the finals, no one would tolerate it. The guy screamed that it was simply a shame to lose to this gang of hooligans. Lin suggested that they all train hard to be ready for anything. The guy said that their biggest problem was the lack of a coordinated attack, which could prove costly when facing the threat of high-level ferocious beasts. Lin released Ai and said that if they could withstand their combined attack, their strength would increase greatly. Ai had grown significantly in size and was waiting for her master's orders. Long and Nianwei asked with a nervous smile. Did he really think they could withstand their attack? Lin said that there were 7 of them, and they should not be unsure of themselves. The guy said that they should manage, that everything would work out for them, although he himself didn't really believe in it. He activated the shield and said that he would not hold back and would be careful. Lin activated the skill of enormous strength, iron bones, and shouted that he was attacking. He flew up and hung over the guy with the shield, ready to attack. The boy was shocked by Lin Han's strength and didn't know what to do. The boys decided to help their friend and rushed together towards Lin Han. Lin said it was pretty good, but he still needed to keep an eye on the trailer. Long cried out that this was all because Lin Han was too fast. The boy thought that he finally understood what Lin Han's opponents were facing. Yun decided to help her classmate and used her healing skill. Another guy asked him to cover, saying he was building up his strength for a powerful punch. A appeared before his eyes and didn't let him go anywhere. The guy ran forward to cover him. He activated the Light Shroud skill, which meant his own defense increased by 50%. The guy cried out that he had held out, and the rest was up to everyone else. AI understood that the master had forbidden her to use all her strength, and decided that she would use it sparingly. The guy flew back a decent distance, and I screamed in fear that she had really only hit him lightly. The boy, perplexed, said that he wouldn't be able to reach the headman from such a distance. I was right in front of him and was about to attack, but she restrained herself at Lin Han's request. Liu Sui activated the teleportation portal skill and appeared next to the tank. A stood there in bewilderment as to how they managed to pull this off. At this time, Long was next to Lin Han, and seeing the portal behind him, he started to run away. He shouted loudly for everyone to go back, but Lin didn't understand it at all. Turning back, he saw a tank that was already ready to fire. There was a powerful explosion, and Yoon and Loon were barely able to stay on their feet from the shockwave. Everyone started jumping for joy, saying that Lin Han also had a day like this when he lost. Lin thought about how he didn't expect Liu Sui to be able to use spatial movement. Suddenly the boys' expressions changed, and they started screaming in fear. I ran after one of the guys, saying that he wouldn't leave just like that, because he had offended the owner. Lin Han smiled and told I to finish and come back. He said that everyone worked well together, even making him sweat a little. Lin also said that Sui was the best in this training, and asked how he mastered the spatial movement skill. Sui said that this was his new acquired teleportation retinue. Lin chuckled and said that it was a pretty good item, and it would be very useful in the final. Loon said that after the training he feels he has much better control over his strength. Qinhai watched all of this from the corner of the building, and he thought that if Lin could break Zhang Zheng's shield so easily, his pet was not at all simple. The second day had arrived, and Lin had already heard a lot of discussions about him. This year's freshman competition is quite unusual because Lin Han is at odds with the heir of the Zhao family. The first-year forum has been absolutely buzzing for the last few days. Everyone was talking about nothing else. Everyone was shocked that they were heading to the Grey Wind Plateau, because the local wolf packs and wind bats are not the easiest opponents. Zhao Feng said that Lin still had time to refuse. Otherwise, once they reached the plateau, he would not hold back. Lin told him to watch his dirty mouth, otherwise he would have to go to the barber again. These words made Zhao very angry, and it felt like even Chief Ye's presence wouldn't stop him. Chief Ye shouted for everyone to be quiet as he declared the official start of this year's rookie competition finals. He said that in the first round, the class leaders of each class lead their teams to the competition site. Those who do not arrive within half a day are considered eliminated and will not be allowed to participate in the second round. 2 teams successfully arrived at the Grey Wind Plateau, with the third-class team even lagging slightly behind. Loon said that in half an hour of driving they had not yet encountered a single animal. Lin said that since the academy had chosen this location for the first test, reaching the destination would not be so easy. Level 45 plain wolves appeared on the horizon, which left Lin Han very surprised. Qinhai said that this was just an ordinary pack of wolves. There was no need for them to interfere. Lin shouted at them all to be careful and keep an eye on the time, and if they needed help, they should call him at any time. There was a strong and fairly fast attack, and there were many explosions all around. The third-grade team was also attacked by a pack of wolves, but they did not understand what to do, and asked the headman for help. The boy cried out that he didn't know where the headman had gone, and that there was no need to panic. One of the wolves stopped and was not going to attack anyone else. Zhao Feng used a family artifact, namely a bait bone, after which these beasts no longer attacked him. A scroll of imprisonment has been added that allows the user to forcibly enter into a contract with one tamed beast. Jay realized that all he had to do now was wait for Lin Han to lose to these wolves, and then he could take advantage of the opportunity to forcefully enter into a contract with his pet. The 4th-grade boys skillfully attacked a pack of wolves, and did not let them go any further. Lin said that this was all the result of his own efforts, but the third class was in a panic. They shouted for the wolves not to come near them and asked for help. Suddenly a strange sound was heard, and a green glow appeared from somewhere in the sky. The boy looked up and saw a girl named Jaime above his head. She landed deftly on one knee, and everyone fell silent and seemed to be holding their breath. Jaime, a first-year student from the 3rd class, was an archer, and asked the boy if he could stand up. Lun said that this girl looks cooler than that dumb headman. Lin, looking at her closely, realized that her strength was at least at the peak of the 3rd stage. Zhao Feng didn't expect this development and sat on the ground, surrounded by wolves. Lin spotted the Wolf King on the hill and told his boys to retreat. It was indeed the king of the plateau wolves. Its level was 50th. Zhao Feng realized that the pressure from the plain Wolf King had allowed them to resist the bait bone. She rushed to his class, screaming for them to save him. Jaime told the chief to help her hold off the pack, because her skill needed time to build up its strength. The guy just ran past, saying that he couldn't do it and would leave it all to her. The Wolf King was already very close to Jaime. The girl was looking straight at him. Qinhai said that if they didn't intervene now, it would be too late. Lin decided to intervene and help. He activated the lightning strike skill, and then a huge force. He managed to hold the wolf back and shouted at Jaime to get out. Jaime sat rooted to the ground. The blow was very strong and it was difficult to move. The wolf fell to the ground with a wild roar, causing the ground to shake underfoot. Jaime asked why he saved her, since the 3rd and 4th classes had been enemies for a long time. Lin said with a smile that his feud with their chief was none of the others' business. The wolves surrounded their king, not understanding what to do next. Seeing a lot of blood, they ran in different directions, howling loudly. Jaime hesitated slightly and barely audibly thanked Lin Han for saving her. Lin said that it was nothing, and after the competition she could go to the school medical center to have her hidden wounds checked. Zhao Feng was angry that she went to seek help from Lin Han instead of handling it herself. Teacher Wei thought that Lin Han had originally wanted to kill Zhao Feng, but was now pretending to be his savior. Lin Han received a notification that a silver wolf bone decoy item had been discovered. The guy remembered that he had seen this same thing at Zhao Feng's place, and understood why he wanted to come here. He picked up the bone from the ground and examined it carefully, his insides seething with anger. Lun asked if he was okay, to which he said that they had already passed the Wolfpack's territory, and they could move on. Lin's contempt for Zhao grew stronger because he had put his comrades in danger for his own benefit. After some time, they had already reached the depths of the Grey Wind Plateau. They were met by Chief Yi, who said that the 3rd and 4th grade teams had all safely completed the first stage. Lin admired his team, realizing that they had already become quite united. But in the 3rd grade everything was different. The class monitor was furious. Everyone else was in a panic. Chief Yi began to announce the rules for the 2nd round. Teams of 4 compete in individual matches, with each participant allowed a maximum of 2 arena defenses. Lin advised Lun not to overestimate himself, and even if he couldn't win, he would cover for him. Lun said with a smile that right now he would pull out the first victory for the 4th grade. Jaime wanted to go first, but Zhao told Tang Ming to go first. Jaime tried to explain that her strength was enough to win the opening battle for the 3rd class. Zhou said that she shouldn't think that he didn't notice how she fought with Lin Han during the battle with the Wolf King. This angered Jaime, because it concerned the interests of the class, and she did not mix personal feelings with business. Zhou said that no one knows whether she has feelings or not, and reiterated that Tang Ming comes first. Tang Ming cried out that he was a warrior with a huge sword, and Long introduced himself in response. The battle began. There was an active attack from both sides, but both were still full of strength. Tang Ming said that he never thought that a fat man like Long could move so fast. Lun cried out that this was not all he could surprise him with. Tang Ming stood waiting for the attack and said that the fat man was asking for trouble. The boy activated the Blade Storm skill, which spins the giant sword and creates a powerful stream of blades. It looked quite spectacular, but the problem arose of how to get to it. Lun didn't understand what to do next, and began to receive unexpected blows from blades. At one point he became completely confused and was thrown very hard to the side. Lying on the ground with a large number of wounds, he could only groan in pain. Zhao Feng said with a smile that all they knew how to do was make fun of the trash in the 1st class. Lin told the others not to panic, that the fat man was much more experienced in combat than Tang Ming. Tang Ming said that in front of absolute power, any speed and techniques are useless. Lun said with a smile that until the fight is over, one should never relax. He shouted for Tang Ming to catch the fat man's flying knife and not stand there in vain. Several knives flew towards him and one pierced his leg very deeply, and then the knives stabbed into his other leg and arm, and Tang Ming fell to his knees. Chief Ye said that Tang Ming had lost his ability to fight, and ordered his mentor to take his student away for treatment. Lin Han told the fat man that it was quite a good job. Zhao knew that in order to win he would have to release Jaime, but he was worried that she would give in to Lin Han. The guy pointed menacingly at the girl and said that she was next. Jaime said that at first she wanted to fight for the sake of the class, but Zhao accused her of betrayal, after which she said that she did not intend to serve him. Zhao said that it was not her decision whether to go out or not. He began to threaten that the Zhao family only had to lift a finger, and her brother would be expelled on the spot. Jaime, in desperation, asked them not to touch her brother and said that she would carry out this fight. Long wondered if this was the beauty Lin Han had saved and suggested exchanging contact information. The girl introduced herself as Jaime, a 3rd-class archer. Watching what was happening, Lin felt that Jaime's strength was stronger than the fat man's. But one of them is a marksman, and the other is a close combatant. If the fat man can get close, there might still be a chance. Jaime fired a pursuit arrow, which fired an arrow with a homing function. The further it flew, the more damage it did. Lun was outraged and confused as the archer immediately struck with full force. Lung rejoiced at Jaime's miss, as he believed Jaime had been distracted by his unearthly beauty. Lin understood that in the future, in fights with girls, he couldn't let the fat man go, since Long was only thinking about how to show off. Shu warned the fat man of the danger with a shout. The fat man was perplexed, and did not understand why he had to be careful. Lun was surprised and thought that these arrows could also turn. The fat man's sword fell to the ground with a loud clang. The fat man was greatly surprised by the archer's immense strength, which was confirmed by her numb hand. Jaime focused all her attention on the fat man, gathering all her strength to attack. The pursuit arrow hit its target, right at Lun, causing him serious damage. Jaime victoriously and with cold indifference informed the fat man and those around her about the end of the battle. Zhao Feng was incredibly angry at Long's antics and jokes during the battle. He did not want to miss the chance to suppress Lin Han's spirit by harming his best friend. Zhao Feng ordered Jaime not to knock the fat man out of the fight and to teach him a few more lessons. She tried to object, since the opponent could no longer move. The village chief, Zhao Feng, didn't care at all about Jaime's objections, and angrily made it clear that he wasn't worth arguing with. The archer looked towards the headman in surprise. Jaime clenched her jaw, revealing a vicious grin. And at that very moment the archer resolutely prepared for battle. The archer, apologizing for the forced continuation of the fight, angrily pulled the bowstring to launch the pursuit arrow. Lun gripped the hilt of his sword tightly and activated the berserker heart skill. The fat man angrily and carelessly reminded Jaime that Lin had saved her, but the girl had turned out to be ungrateful, and also emphasized that he did not need her leniency. Lun rushed towards the archer with anger and incredible speed, and the boy dealt Jaime a powerful blow, but the archer deftly jumped away from the fat man's sword. Zhu was jubilant as the fat man had managed to break through into close combat, but Lin did not share her joy. Long's chances of winning had dropped to 30%. Lin also emphasized that the fat man's skill gave him a boost to all characteristics. But despite his attack, Jaime still dealt with it easily. During the battle, the archer had a grin on her face and managed to deftly avoid the blow. The girl instantly pulled the bowstring and fired an arrow at the enemy. Sure enough, the arrow hit Luna, cutting his cheek, and then the fat man realized that things were bad for him. Lung let out a loud cry of pain as he dropped his sword, his arms and legs damaged by the pursuit arrow. Jumping to the side, Jaime fixed her gaze on Luna. Lin shouted angrily at the fat man, beads of sweat appearing on his face from nerves. On the other hand, a satisfied Zhao Feng shouted at Jaime to keep shooting until Lun became like a hedgehog. And again, apologizing, the archer shot at the fat man. Lun screamed at the top of his voice as the arrow struck his body again. Lin shouted at the top of his lungs for the fat man to stop resisting and finally admit his defeat. Chief Ye stated that the poison had begun to spread, and it seemed like the fat man couldn't even speak. Chief Ye declared Lun Tianjiao immobile and awarded the victory to the third class. Shu angrily said that she would fight next and vowed to return to Jaime all the blows that the fat man received. Lin stopped Shu with a gesture and said that he would fight himself, since Shu was no match for her. The boy came out and introduced himself as the third-class headman, Beast Tamer Lin Han, and accepted the challenge to a fight. The archer introduced herself again as third class, Jaime. Jaime didn't hesitate for a second and shot an arrow at Lin, suggesting they finish it all quickly. But then Lin shouted out Ai's name, and a huge ant appeared, taking the arrow on itself, protecting the boy. The archer noticed that the ant was a strong and ferocious beast, and believed that it was Lin Han's trump card. Those watching the fight showered Jaime with barbed remarks, calling her all sorts of names. A smug smile played on Lin's face. Only after trying it did the archer know whether it was a trump card or not. Jaime took aim and fired another pursuit arrow at the enemy. Once again, the arrow was blocked by a giant ant, protecting its owner. Lin Han assured Ai to leave him to deal with the archer himself, as Jaime wouldn't be able to withstand even one blow from her. Lin ran towards the archer with incredible speed. He then copied the skill, enormous power, and the skill change was activated. Jaime was shocked by the speed of Lin Han's movements. Seeing Lin Han's fist in front of her face, the archer closed her eyes and only had time to think that after such a blow, everything would be over. Jaime opened one eye and couldn't understand why there was no blow. But surprise paralyzed the archer, as Lin's fist was still a few centimeters from her face, and Lin stood there grinning contentedly. Still with a smile on his face, Lin said that after such a blow, the archer would either die or be seriously injured, and he thought that the academy would not want such an outcome, and the victory was immediately awarded to Lin Han. Jaime was shocked, but Lin accepted the victory with satisfaction. Still perplexed, the archer asked why he hadn't struck, since she had wounded his comrade. Before Lin and Jaime's fight, Lun told Lin that the archer had fired unpoisoned arrows at him. While they had initially hurt, they had merely paralyzed his body, causing only superficial wounds. Smiling, Lin asked Jaime if she had injured the fat man, but he had other information. The archer admitted that she did not want to harm the fat man, and then hesitated. But Lin guessed that the archer had her reasons. With a smile, Lin guessed that the reason was the threats from the overbearing class president, Jaime. The archer remained silent as the situation spoke for itself. Afterwards, Lin said that in this situation, it was not Jaime who should have been hit, but the one who used his comrades as a tool to vent his anger. And after that, in anger, he challenged the third-grade class leader, Zhao Feng, to a duel. The surrounding crowd was shocked by the news about their chief, and Zhao Feng was simply seething with anger. Zhao raised his hands and ran towards Lin Han, accepting the duel, shouting that he would definitely deal with him. Zhao Feng began by asking Headmaster Ye and the mentors to go out to fight with Wei, since their wolves were twins, and this would even out their strength, since Lin was a higher level. The crowd booed and chanted, calling on Zhao to stop disgracing himself. Zhu accused Zhao of lacking conscience, because 2 against 1 is completely unfair, and if he didn't know how to play, then he shouldn't have started. The military academy's mentor considered Zhao Feng's request reasonable, as Li Wei and Zhao Feng had formed a special alliance contract in their childhood, and had simultaneously tamed 2 ice wolf brothers. However, Qinghai found the request unreasonable and wanted to hear what Lin Han himself would say about it. Director Ye reminded Zhao that this was a personal fight, and that demands of this kind violated the rules, and Lin had the right to refuse. Lin smiled slyly as he thought about the possibility of defeating 2 opponents at once. Lin Han stood relaxed, his hands in his pockets, and challenged the 2 scumbags to a fight. After Lin Han's words, 2 ice wolves appeared. Zhao Feng and Li Wei were very arrogant, ridiculing Lin Han's courage and asking him to kneel down and bow so that they could spare his life. The atmosphere between the opponents heated up at an incredible speed. The ice wolves and their tamers were ready for battle. One of the mentors suggested that Lin Han apologize to Zhao Feng, otherwise he would lose more than he gained. Although there was nothing to apologize for, he had done nothing wrong. The teacher said that Zhao Feng had the Zhao family behind him, and also had good connections with the Magic Association. And if Lin Han was smart, he should know who it was better not to quarrel with. Qinghai did not understand the other teacher's position, and asked him why teach and educate if the teacher would advise people to bow their heads because of someone's powerful position. Zhao Feng sarcastically ordered Lin Han to immediately kneel before him and hand over his tamed beast, and then he might spare him. Lin Han's beasts, as soon as they heard the conversation, also instantly became angry. Their facial expressions clearly showed it. I was at the limit of anger and shouted out words that Zhao was not worthy of such a thing at all. Tianhu fiercely asked her master for permission to teach Zhao Feng a lesson. Xiao furiously vowed to burn Zhao Feng with the phoenix flame. Lin Han gently stroked his beasts' heads to calm them down, and told them that they shouldn't be angry because of such a bastard. Lin Han sarcastically remarked that Zhao Feng and Li Wei were quite impudent, and one might think that they were actually worth something. Zhao Feng and Li Wei boiled over with anger in a second and began to attack Lin Han. 2 furious ice wolves rushed out to attack Lin Han. At this moment, Lin was completely calm and focused. This was evident from his confident stance. Zhao Feng was incredibly happy, thinking that his ice wolf had frightened Lin Han and he was afraid to attack. In an instant, Lin Han's beasts transformed into their animal selves, ready to protect their master. Lin Han's confident stance, arms crossed over his chest, and the fierce gaze of his beasts all indicated that he was seriously prepared for battle. Lin Han's beast did not hesitate to engage in combat with Zhao Feng and Li Wei's 2 ice wolves. In the fight, the ice wolves took a beating, as if a steamroller had rolled over them. Li Wei was simply dumbfounded. Their beasts were suppressed, and he demanded that young Master Zhao call them back. However, Zhao did not even want to think about admitting his defeat in front of Lin Han. But Li Wei tried to reason with him that now was not the time to think about pride, and that he needed to save the beasts before they themselves came to an end. And then I loudly and furiously called on the others to attack. I used a tremendous amount of force, causing the ice wolves to be thrown back with an incredibly strong force. Afterwards, Xiao and Tianhu joined the attack, using Phoenix Flame and Thunderstrike respectively. On the enemy side, 2 devastating explosions of fiery and purple colors were heard. The crowd was wild with joy as they watched the battle unfold, and Lin Han destroy everything. The teacher was extremely angry with Lin Han because he had gone too far. But Teacher Qing did not see anything special in this. It was just that Lin Han had miscalculated his strength during the battle. The teacher was angrily perplexed, because these 2 ice wolves were raised by the Zhao family, who put all their efforts into them, and now they were destroyed by Lin Han, and the Zhao family will not forgive him for this. Teacher Qing frowned and said sternly that this was the official tournament of the military academy, and Zhao Feng lost because he was weaker. And if the Zhao family dared to cause a scandal, it would be an open violation of the academy rules and a challenge to the academy's authority. Zhao Feng and Li Wei were both furious and shocked that Lin Han would dare to do such a thing. There was a satisfied smile on the faces of Lin Han and his beasts, and Lin couldn't understand why Zhao was showing off so much if they were weak with Li Wei. Zhao was furious and threatened to kill Lin Han for destroying his beast. Afterwards, Zhao Feng furiously ordered the 3rd class to unite and kill Lin Han. However, the 3rd class refused to attack Lin Han, as it would be shameful, because Zhao Feng lost, not hesitating to go out 2 against 1, and now he ordered others to fight. Zhao was simply torn apart by the third class's disobedience. How could they disobey him? Lin Han smiled contentedly. He was amused by the situation. No one listened to Zhao Feng, and he looked like a clown. But Zhao Feng wasn't going to give up easily, and he had an item that he was going to use to finish off Lin Han. And this item Zhao had turned out to be the Scroll of Sealing. Lin was stunned, assuming that this was the trump card that Zhao wanted to use to take the beast away from him. Teacher Qing was equally stunned, as it was a forbidden scroll from the Magic Association, and he didn't understand what Zhao was planning to do. Meanwhile, Lin Han decided not to waste a second and attacked Zhao. Lin Han activated Skill Change, then Skill Copy, activating Immense Strength. Lin slowly leaned over and reached out his hand towards the forbidden scroll. Han looked at the scroll in his hand with interest, and decided that he would put it in his inventory for now and study it later. Zhao had blood oozing from his mouth because Lin had knocked out 2 of his teeth, and he also couldn't accept the fact that Lin had hit him, and wished for him to die without a grave. Director Ye stopped Zhao Feng, since it was he who started the chaos, and asked him not to go too far. But then Lin froze in surprise, seeing something to the side. In an instant, dust rose and the air around seemed to vibrate. It turned out that a large number of wind bats were approaching the academy. Director E confirmed that this was a migration of a flock of wind mice, and called on everyone to prepare for battle. The teacher called the third class and ordered them to take Zhao Feng aside. Teacher Qing pointed his finger at Head Ye in a certain direction with a horrified expression, asking him to look there. Among the flock of wind bats, a militant girl with red eyes, elven ears, and horns on her head appeared. Head Ye couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't believe that this was the Night Queen. And the shocked Teacher Qing said that this was a legendary king-rank beast, extremely rare, and among the tens of thousands of wind mice, only one could evolve into the Night Queen. A worried Director E, looking at the danger notice, doubted his ability to deal with the Night Queen. The mentor reminded them that as military personnel and teachers, they could under no circumstances abandon their students and save themselves, and that a signal for help had already been sent. Director E gave orders for the instructors to use the defensive position of the Three Origins Academy, as it was necessary to hold out until the arrival of the Academy's reinforcements. The disciples blamed Zhao Feng because it was because of him that everyone had to go to the Grey Wind Plateau, and if it weren't for him, none of this would have happened. Lin held the shield in his hands and immediately headed towards the students. Lin Han told everyone to stay close, and he handed the Zhuanwu shield to Pugliash, and told him to protect the girls. At this time, Director Ye began to activate the 3 powers. He activated the power of heaven. The mentor angrily activated the power of the earth, and Teacher Qing, in turn, activated the power of man. And a protective position in the form of a dome, called the 3 Beginnings, was activated above the academy. Director E announced that the mice were beginning their attack. The enraged wind bats began to attack the academy's defensive position. The wind mice had a terrifying appearance, long sharp teeth and claws, and only the defensive stance of the academy held them back. Teacher Qing told Lin Han that they had to maintain the main formation to prevent the large beasts from getting through, but they had to fight off the small bats that broke through themselves, and as the class leader, he had to keep an eye on his class. Lin Han's beasts were also fully prepared to protect their master by fighting the wind mice. The students stood together in a tight circle, with their backs to the center, ready to fight for themselves and for the academy. Lin Han called for them to prepare for battle and emphasized that everyone must survive. But Shu objected and said that he should not underestimate them, as these mice were nothing compared to Ai during training. And at that moment, Long, without letting go of the shield, lowered it to the ground and shouted out the name Shu Ting. Shu Ting made a big jump and appeared above Long, shouting that she was already here. Xu handled the bat skillfully, as if she had been doing this all her life. Nianwei cried out that she would not be left behind either and charged forward. The guy behind the tank laughingly shouted that they should let him shoot to his heart's content. Lin thought about how he hadn't expected them to work together so well, and decided that he wouldn't even have to interfere, that they were doing just fine on their own. An elite level 50th wind bat appeared in the sky. The boys were shocked by the strong gusts of wind, which were difficult to cope with. Lin Han received a notification that this was an elite quest to eliminate 10 elite wind bats. The guy released the animals and said that he was really counting on them. Zhao used her Phoenix Flame, channeling the average power of her strength. Tianhu joined her and immediately used her Thunder Strike. A powerful tornado of lightning, flames, and sand appeared. It all looked very scary and impressive. Lin ran to Lun to help him up. He was quite badly injured. Qin Hai thought that only the true Phoenix and Thunderbird among the 10 beasts possessed such skills. The Queen of the Night slowly began to disappear from sight. Only her silhouette remained visible. Boss E said that she probably didn't even notice them, but the main thing for him was that the students were okay. Lin said that they don't yet know what's going on outside and they can't stay here for long. Qin Hai told the chief that he had seen the skills Lin Han used, and said that they were ancient beasts. The boss was shocked and asked Lin to go with him and the rest to stay put. He whispered to the guy so that no one would hear, where he got such ferocious animals. Lin didn't want to reveal the secret of the 10 ancient beasts so early. But the situation was critical. In order to save lives, he said that he caught them himself. Chief Ye said that his beasts were not at all like those that could be simply caught somewhere in the forest, that they were more like carriers of ancient blood. The boss looked at the guy with a serious and indignant expression on his face, waiting for an answer. Lin was a little surprised that he had figured it out. He didn't understand what to do, and whether he should tell him the truth. A white haze swirled around the guys who were standing not far from Lin and the boss. Lin cried out that there was something wrong with the aura around him. Qin Hai was also at a loss as to what had happened. Someone said that there might be an enemy attack. No one should run away and everyone needs to quickly gather together. Although Lin was prepared, he was still afraid because he didn't understand what was happening. Qin Hai said that the situation was bad, and the smoke was very suspicious. Zhao Feng started shouting that it was too early for him to die, and that all this was because of Lin Han. Lin's beasts were also on standby, standing in front of him to protect him and telling him to be careful. Lin began to feel something strange. His eyes began to slowly close. He could barely unsee his animals. Tianhu noticed this and called him. All three rushed towards him, trying to understand what had happened to the owner. After some time, Lin Han came to his senses. Looking around, he realized that he was in some kind of building. The animals surrounded him, asking how he was feeling and if he was injured. The boys from the 3rd grade were also there, and they were very upset, saying that it was all because of Zhao Feng. Zhao also came to his senses. He realized that the ice wolves were no longer there, but they were now in some damned hole. Lun asked Chief Ye where they were and whether they could get out of here. Chief Yi told everyone to stay put and be quiet. He assumed they were in ancient ruins. Lun cried out in surprise, asking if this was the place that was only mentioned in textbooks and then only as a legend. Lin thought about how in ancient times, people did not know how to use the power of their professions and were completely unable to resist ferocious beasts. And later, ruins emerged from the spatial rifts, obeying their own laws. Those who passed their tests received enormous experience and treasures, and it was thanks to this that people were able to resist the ferocious beasts. The treasures were in impressive quantities, as if such a thing could only be dreamed of before. Qin Hai said that even they, the teachers, had only heard about them. No one believed that they really existed. Above Chief Yi's head, a silhouette appeared. It resembled a small bat. She said that they were on a battlefield in ruins. The mouse added that the first test of the 3rd level, there is only one participant under 20 years old. The boss was a little upset that he would not be able to take part in such a unique opportunity, simply because of his age. He decided that he could only hope that among the students, there would be someone who could save everyone at this critical moment. Chief Yi repeated that if the test failed, no one would get out of here. Master Qin asked Lin Han if he would participate. Lin thought it over and said that they need not worry, because even for himself he would fight with all his might. The guy stepped forward with a smile and said that he accepted the challenge of the ruins. A voice came from nowhere, saying that they were all insignificant mortals, and asked them to go to the bloody arena, to the Hall of Death. Something strange appeared around Lin Han. It was hard for him to unsee it. It was as if there were strong currents of wind, but they were controlled by someone. Lin was surprised that he was transported to the center of the arena so quickly. He tried to figure out where the fat man and everyone else were. Lin and Shu sat in the stands and shouted that they were with him in spirit. The bat told him to fight with all his might if he didn't want to become another nameless spirit. She flew closer and laughingly told him to get ready to meet the first stage opponent. A level 50, diamond-ranked Cyclops ran into the arena in a rage and with a loud roar. Chief Yi realized that the test of these ruins fully lived up to its reputation. Zhao Feng, seeing the Cyclops, only hoped for it to slap Lin Han with one blow. The bat announced the beginning of the first stage of testing. After these words, the Cyclops rushed at the guy. Lin summoned Ai, who appeared and said that she had just leveled up and was eager to test her strength. Ai activated a huge force, directing it straight at the Cyclops. The Cyclops raised a bat with nails in his hand and defended the attack, squealing in anger throughout the arena. Ai was surprised by this. She said that she didn't expect him to be so strong. The Cyclops screamed throughout the arena. The sounds were terrifying, but there was no turning back. Ai flew closer to him and delivered another powerful blow to him. The attack was swift and powerful, which the Cyclops was unable to withstand and fell into the arena. Lin Han received a notification that the first stage of the Dune Ruins battlefield had been completed, for which he received 500 points. Lun cried out with joy that his friend was simply out of this world and that he was his idol. Teacher Ye said with a smile that this was the real Lin, that if it had been anyone else, he would never have passed the first stage so easily. Zhao Feng was furious that Lin dealt with the Cyclops in just 2 blows. He realized that in the battle with him, the guy did not fight at full strength. The bat announced that the first stage test had been passed, and that they would continue the challenge. Something strange, red in color, began to emerge from the dark corridor into the arena. A hand with long black claws appeared and grabbed the wall. The creature immediately rushed at the guy, and Lun screamed for Lin to be careful. The guy was thrown to the side by the force of the landing, and he only had time to think that this creature had pretty good speed. It was a bloody corpse, already level 51, but also diamond rank. Mentor Ye said that while it was inferior in strength to the Cyclops, in a desperate situation, this species was capable of instant evolution, unleashing devastating power. Lin screamed for Ai to deal with him properly. After these words, the girl immediately flew towards him. Ai used enormous force, which the bloody corpse deftly dodged. He managed to attack Ai, hitting her hard enough to send her flying. Ai screamed that he was too fast, closing her eyes in slight pain. The girl decided to try another skill, directing an attack that was several times stronger. She managed to hit the bloody corpse straight on, and it screamed loudly in pain throughout the entire hall. There was even a strong explosion, and flames scattered in all directions. As soon as the smoke began to clear, only isolated limbs were visible in the arena. Ai flew up to Lin Han, who praised her for her excellent work. Zhao and Tianhu began to ask their master to let them out because they also wanted to fight. Teacher Yi realized that the bloody corpse had evolved and shouted at Lin to look back. Lin Han turned his head and stared at the bright red glow. In front of him stood a bloody corpse that had just evolved, with a sly smile. Now he has become an armored undead bloody corpse, but already at level 53. Qin Hai was horrified to see that he had merged with the undead armor, which was a rare occurrence. Lin thought about what he had seen in the bitter water swamp, and decided that he would definitely need to study the working principle of this phenomenon. Lin Han asked Zhao and Tianhu to wait for a while and sent them to deal with Ai's creature. Ai deftly dealt the first blow to the bloody corpse, causing it to groan. Another explosion occurred, and everyone in the hall held their breath, waiting to see Lin Han. The girl headed back to the owner, saying that it was too easy, but she only thought she had dealt with him because he grabbed the sword. Lin yelled at her to turn around, but he was already right behind her. The girl was very surprised to realize that he was still alive. She struck him with all her anger, causing his head to fly off. But he kept coming back together piece by piece, and she couldn't understand how that was possible. A became very angry and screamed that she would tear him to pieces. Lin Han realized that physical attacks had little effect, and decided to try Xiao Zhen's fire. Xiao happily said that she would deal with him, since she had been waiting for her turn for a long time. Xiao looked at the bloody corpse and said that it was only because of this creature that she could not be near the owner. The girl used the Phoenix Flame skill, directing it straight at the bloody corpse. Ai jumped aside from Xiao's attack and shouted that she should warn him before using her ult next time. The bloody corpse burst into flames like a match, screaming loudly throughout the arena, and Lin Han let out a sigh of relief that he was finally finished. Lin Han looked at his beasts with a smile, saying that they both did an excellent job. Suddenly, everything shook, and a strange but very loud sound was heard. It was jarring to everyone's ears, even to Lin Han's beasts. The mentor and the others were perplexed, trying to understand what was happening. Ai screamed in horror that the monster had risen again. Lin panicked and said that it seemed like the battle was not over yet and looked back. The king of the ghostly flame appeared on the arena. He was level 55, but already a star rank. Qin Hai cried out that this couldn't be, that it had died out long ago. Teacher Ye shouted to Lin Han that the Flame King was immune to physical attacks. Lin told Xiao and Ai to probe his weak points first. They simultaneously used the Phoenix Flame and enormous strength. But the king of the ghostly flame stood there as if nothing had happened. He deftly dodged the attacks, practically without putting in much effort. Lin thought that he really couldn't be hit, and no longer understood what could be used against him. After failing to do so, the Ghost Flame King screamed throughout the arena. He decided to use his sinister trump card, Psychic Interference. Teacher Ye cried out that Lin Han had no mental barrier skills, and would not be able to withstand such an attack. Lin Han flew to the side, thinking that he couldn't even control his own body. He understood that Ai and the others would not last long, and that they needed to get out of this state immediately. He received a notification that after Tianhu's breakthrough, a high-level mental attack skill would become available. Lin Han shouted for Tianhu to give all the remaining beast taming points. The girl's eyes glowed a bright purple, and her face showed that she was furious. The teacher said that no one could break the power of the rules of the ruins, and now all that remained was to rely on Lin Han himself. Zhao Feng was only happy about this, because when Lin died, all of his battle pets would go to him. Zhao was panicking because her attacks with Ai weren't doing any damage. Ai did not give up and attacked the king as best she could, screaming that she hated him. A strange and bright glow appeared above Xiao's head. It was hard to look at it. Turning around, she saw Tianhu, and asked her how it was that she came out. Tianhu slowly sank to the ground, holding Lin Han, who was in serious condition, in her arms. She said that it was the master who enhanced her strength, thanks to which she was able to break through the mental pressure of the Ghost Flame King. Lin cried out that she would be the one leading the attack from now on, and I and Xiao were supposed to support her. The girl launched an attack and hit the king straight away, causing him to scream loudly. Tianhu used Thunder Roar, a mental attack that tears apart the darkness like lightning and suppresses all impurities. She then activated Thundercloud, which summons a cloud towards the target and paralyzes all creatures within it. The king decided that he was still stronger and tried using Blur. But a blur error occurred and he seemed to be paralyzed. I was shocked, saying that the stupid bird had become very strong. Tianhu replied that it was all thanks to the master who helped her break through and level up. Lin Han cried out that the king's blur had disappeared and Xiao Zhen was now coming out. Xiao immediately rushed towards the Ghost Flame King and used Phoenix Flame against him. The king screamed throughout the hall from such a strong attack. He tried to resist somehow, but all attempts were unsuccessful. I looked at Xiao and Tianhu with pride that they managed to protect their master. A bat appeared and announced that the second stage on the ruins battlefield had been completed. But the test continued. The beasts flew towards Lin Han, who was amazed by their capabilities. Qin Hai happily said that it was very good that Lin was able to use his pets wisely. A voice from nowhere addressed Lin, saying that he did not expect to be able to reach the final test. Xiao screamed for the master to be careful because she felt something appearing. Lin heard a woman's voice and languid steps, that he did not dare to do this, because she was the keeper of these ruins. She said he only defeated the Cyclops and the bloody corpse. Chief Ye cried out that this was the very queen of the night, and Lin Han was no match for her. He wanted to help him. A purple glow appeared around the boss, causing Qin Hai to even shudder. The Queen of the Night said that the rules of these ruins state that only the test subject can stand in the arena. She laughed and shouted that the treasures of the ruins should rightfully belong only to her. Lin said with a grin that he would win and get her treasures. The queen said that even if she was just one of her incarnations, he would never defeat her. She was cloned, and the second Queen of the Night, level 55, royal rank, appeared. I rushed at the clone and shouted that she would deal with this old witch. The girl's blow passed through the Queen of the Night, which surprised I greatly. Lin wondered if the Night Queen was also using a skill similar to the Ghost Flame King's blur. The clone of the Queen of the Night appeared right behind the guy and sneered ominously. She asked mockingly, did he really not know that beasts of royal rank were able to completely hide their lust for murder? Mentor Qin Hai and Chief. Ye became even more worried about Lin Han. Lin activated the movement skill and commanded his beasts to act together. The Queen of the Night was surprised that he managed to escape from her. She hoped that he was already finished. Tianhu used Thunderstorm along with Xiao's Phoenix Flame. The attack was very strong. A bright glow appeared that was impossible to look at. Lin cried out that the Queen of the Night was too careless, and laughed. The Queen said that she apparently underestimated him, but even that was not enough to defeat her. She decided to use the Dark Night Chains, which looked quite scary. Literally a second and the animals' hands were tied with chains. They could not do anything about it. Lin was in a panic because he couldn't summon Xiao and Tianhu back to the pet space. The Night Queen flew towards Lin Han with a smile and decided to give him a shadow strike. The animals flew a great distance away. They cried out in pain because their hands were pulling on the chains. Lin immediately realized that it was high time to use the Xuanwu shield. He managed to snatch Xiao and Tianhu, but he didn't have much strength left. The queen said he was quite lucky, but what he had in his hands was not the real artifact. Lin thought for a moment and decided that there was no point in holding back any longer. The boy activated the fusion of skills to finally defeat the Queen of the Night. It looked very powerful, as if all possible powers were appearing from Lin Han. Particles of various colors were flying around him, and it felt like even Chief Ye could sense his strength. Lun was shocked by what he saw. He only realized that his strength was growing before his eyes. Qin Hai said that he couldn't even comprehend what Lin's strength level had become. He knew that he actually had a chance against the Night Queen. The Queen said thoughtfully that she could feel his power. But he was only human, and today was his day of judgment. She screamed for him to die and used the art of soul devouring against him. The fierce and powerful bats flew towards Lin Han at the speed of the wind. Lin understood that they were nothing to him and quickly dealt with them. The guy mockingly shouted at her to try his technique now. He used the Phoenix Flame and Thunderstorm together. The power was incredible. The Queen of the Night did not expect this from this guy and was very surprised. A powerful explosion occurred, and Lin Han even turned away from it. He heard a mocking cough. The guy turned his head slightly to the side. The Queen of the Night asked how he could possess such divine power. Lin decided that he needed to finish her off quickly and activated the copied madness skill. The Queen was furious that he had forced her to go so far and use the plague of 10,000 evils. She flew towards him and screamed that he would definitely die today.